Are we live yet?
There we are. Yep.
We are?
Oh,
Yeah.
look, hi. Hi.
Hey, why don't we do this? When we're doing the intros, I'll do Nick and Liz, and then I'll say something. Hey, you guys want to do some news? And then you can say Nick, Jeff, isn't there? Well, who's that sitting next? Something like that.
Okay.
In other words, I'm going to skip introducing him, and then I go, oh, yeah, forgot about that guy.
Skip the second Nick.
How's that sound?
Yeah.
Nick. That sounds good.
Yeah. Nick. Hello, Michael Kuipers and Ludger Humpert.
APG. Ludger, hi.
And Heddingate.
Mike Kuiper.
What does that mean?
What's
that his
the
name?
U in it? You don't pronounce it. Is it a silent U?
Yeah.
It's
I don't
Dutch,
know.
isn't
Maybe
it,
Michael
Mike?
can. Yeah, it's
Isn't
a Dutch. I think it
Kuipers
sounds Dutch to
from
me.
the Netherlands, I think? I would have said. Just guessing.
I think they kind of suffer the same ailment that you have in England and Europe and Canada, where you add extra vowels that
Just
are
for fun.
unnecessary.
Just to confuse
Just
people.
unnecessary. Yeah, just to piss off Americans.
Oh, Heddingite is
That's
where
why
he grew up.
Yeah.
Heddingite.
Yeah.
Oh, where's Heddingite?
Goes to maps.
Give us more information.
Oh, it's my brother,
you know
Mark.
where
Hi,
Heddingite
Mark.
is?
Sounds like maybe over.
Oh, pronounce heading. Okay. Okay. Oh, it's a place called Heading. Heading where?
Oh, I got it. He's a Heddingite. Okay. Sorry. Got it.
Oh, like an Atlantan or a Georgian.
Oh, do you mean you can also live in a place called altitude and airspeed? That would be really cool. If we got a listener in each of those, we could have great fun, couldn't we?
And Mr. Knotts.
Yeah.
Neil, I
Knott's Bear.
am going to sneak into someone's bedroom to deliver chocolates tonight.
Ooh.
No, I'm not.
Hey.
They
Oh,
probably
yes.
In your dreams.
Yeah. Cadbury's Dairy Milk used to be... oh, did you have an equivalent advert in America then, or was it the same advert?
What?
What?
What are we
Which
referring
advert?
to?
For the guy that used to sneak around delivering chocolates. What chocolates did he deliver?
I'd never heard of
Jeff
that
was
before.
just making that up
No.
on his own.
Eh?
I think that Neil said something looked like I was going to be sneaking into someone's bedroom.
Ah, the
to
milk
deliver
tray
chocolates.
man. That's right.
Never heard
No,
of
it was a genuine thing
guys,
here.
no, back to the Kuipers is Dutch for barrel maker. So Mike could be in charge of all the
cool.
barrels for your brewery.
Oh, great!
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, because
Hey, can I have a
APG
barrel,
brewery.
please, Mike?
Nick, we're going to have APG brewery, and our first IPA is going to be the Shimmy Damper.
it's going to be a
That's
triple
good fun.
imperial IPA with an
Absolutely.
alcohol of like 12%. I don't even think it's possible
at
for a beer,
least.
but if it is, we'll make it.
Actually, beer should be a shimmy enhancer, I would think, but that doesn't work out. So
Well, it certainly
Yeah,
enhanced
it can be.
Steph's shimmy. Ooh,
Okay.
I
I'm
think
sorry, I'm trying to get
I
that
think
picture
Nick
out
is
of my head
enjoying his
now. Thank
beer.
you. I think he is. I wonder what kind of beer Nick is drinking.
I don't know. If only we had a clue.
If only we had some sort of clue.
oh dear.
My goodness, my
Guinness is
Guinness.
good
It
for
is going
you.
down fast.
It is.
It
It's
is.
never a good sign.
It's only the first pint that goes down fast.
He's going to need a pee break pretty soon.
Yeah.
Well, it's real nice actually. I haven't had a Guinness for ages.
Hey, so folks, what we are going to do, Steph is on her way home, and she's probably not going to be able to join us for another 25 minutes or so. Let's make it 30 because she's going to start up her computer, and then there's going to be some kind of problem.
Yes.
Because the housekeepers, the cleaners have done something to it, and probably needs to update Audio Hijack.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
But anyway, so that's the plan. So we're going to start the show here as soon as Liz says it's okay. There's somebody in Liz's house. That's interesting.
You wave at burglars? Apparently.
Oh.
Sorry, that was my brother just picking something up. Sorry.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay. I'm not used to
Thought it was your pet
talking
burglar.
to people in your condo.
No. He needed something printed. He doesn't have a printer, so I printed something. But hey,
Gotcha.
We thought perhaps you got lucky with the Nigerian prince and $12 million.
actually, it was a guy dropping off some chocolates.
Very good.
A suave gentleman.
Yeah, Mr.
Have
Suave.
the chocolates in your bedroom.
Rico Suave.
A suave, huh? Okay.
And
So,
did you, say,
so
did
we're
you
gonna
tell them that Rick might be joining us? Sorry,
No, I didn't. Rick might be joining us. There's some people jackhammering in his house or near his house. At some point, he's going to try to join us when the sound levels drop.
permit. Yeah.
Right? Is that or permit? Is that right?
That was it. Yep.
Okay. All right. So we'll see how that works out. Let me get this all
Everybody
set
got your
up
recorders
for-
on? Recorders on, gentlemen?
Not yet.
No, I don't. Boom. And hit that little button right there.
Button?
Button. I hit the I mashed the button. Button.
Mashed.
Very important. Okay. Say something, Nick.
Say
Camacho.
something.
Camacho.
Hello.
Can we just have Nick 1 and Nick 2? I don't mind which I am.
Nick 2. Nick 2. Or Nick C. Say something again.
Something.
Okay, I need to definitely turn up your.
Turn up your volume.
It's more to do with this, I think. Let's see. Or it might be this. Yeah, I'm going to go 100% on that. How does his volume sound to you all on the StreamYard?
Hello, everybody.
Count to 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Did you notice he stumbled a little bit because he forgot what was after 5? That's not a good sign. And he's an engineer in the U.S. defense industry. That's kind of scary to me. Okay. So does his volume sound okay, Liz?
Yes, sounds fine to me.
I think
Yep,
she wasn't
good to
listening.
me.
Okay, and I need to increase the StreamYard volume too then. I'm going to pop that back up. Okay. That should work. And so Nick C and Jeff N's volume are relatively close. How does it sound? Does it sound all right, Micah? The volume between Nick Camacho and Jeff?
Hi, Micah. How do I sound?
Micah. Okay. So I'll wait for about 25 seconds, and then we'll get the response.
And then someone needs to phone Micah and wake him up.
No, he's there.
Oh, good.
Ian, please join us on YouTube.
Yeah, just a
if
minute.
you
I'll
wanna
send him in the link in a minute.
Hang out
Just-
with all the cool kids.
Just a second. I'll get him the link.
Liz is going to put the link there to YouTube.
Probably ought to hit the bathroom here before we start, huh?
Yeah, go ahead. Don't hit it too hard because I need to use it.
Noise. I'd hate to interrupt.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to turf Hillel out first. So good luck with that.
Oh, you got the thumb. They
What
got
was
the
that?
thumbs up from Micah for everybody.
Oh, wow. That never
good.
happens.
No, never. So just don't
Thank you,
don't
Micah.
adjust anything.
Okay, I won't touch it.
Can't touch that. Do.
Don't touch that.
Yes, you can. Don't touch that.
Don't touch that.
If I had $1 for every time I've heard that.
Captain, don't touch that.
Don't touch that.
Don't touch that.
You see all those buttons? Don't touch it.
What's this? Oh, I should be over here. Milk Tray Man. Never heard of Milk Tray.
Micah says, wait, there's a big change now. It sounds like Nick Camacho's in the bathroom.
Wait a minute. You think that... Oh, wait a minute.
Nick must have
Yeah, I
left
hear
the
him in the
shower.
bathroom. Yeah. Hey, Nick, stop taking the shower. It's time for the show. Okay. Let's make sure that volume sounded very low to me. That is over here. It's okay.
Oh, that's good.
I'll put this other in. So anyway, we are going to start the show, and then Steph's going to join us in progress. And let me just make sure this is all set up for my sound. Current show. There we go. And that and Evernote. I have to think about what I'm going to say for you again. Engineer in the defense industry, crew member. Okay.
It's really not that big a deal.
I know. It is to me.
It is for Jeff.
Yes. Okay. Come on.
So my TV started suffering from the Samsung purple spot syndrome.
I saw you posted about that on Twitter or something.
Yeah, can you believe it?
And
I
how
didn't
old
even
was
know
the
it
TV?
existed.
Was it three years old or something?
Yeah, it's an LCD. It's a big LCD, and all of a sudden I've got these two big purple blotches on the screen.
And it's a known problem?
Yeah. And when I googled it, it sounds like it's a very common problem with Samsung screens. So
I have a Samsung. It's
that's the last time
Are
I
they doing
buy
anything,
anything
or-
from them.
You're going to throw it in the bin.
Well, there's not much else you can. It's cost more than the TV's worth to repair.
So what did you buy now? What kind did you buy now?
I've got an LG OLED. So
Same
hopefully that'll be
size?
nice.
Same size?
No,
or
a
big?
little bigger.
Why did I know that was going to be the answer?
Well,
an OLED.
Us
That's
boys.
good.
Yeah, I hope
boys
so.
and your
That'd
toys.
be
Yeah,
good.
toys.
Well, my boy said get the Philips because it's got that Ambilight thing, and Julie said you're not having one with an Ambilight. So I said okay, I'll trade you. I'll have the 65-inch without Ambilight, and she said okay. So we're now getting a massive
Neil's
16
comment
inches, huh?
was that was 16 inches, huh?
A bit more than that, young man.
Let's see if I can find that. Oh, well. That's interesting. I don't think I have that.
Anyway.
There we go. Thanks.
16 inches high.
Wow.
Very nice.
That's a lot.
I tell you what, Liz, that when you say that, that sounds so much like your everyday wow.
Oh, does
I keep thinking it's you doing it live.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
wow. That's a lot.
Uh-oh. Sorry, Ian.
Oh, that's true.
Uh-oh. What's going on?
Ian's just got a
mouse is
55-inch
going out of
Samsung.
control.
That's what I had, mate. But perhaps they'll have fixed the problem by
But I
now,
do like that frame one that he's got. It's the one that has sort of no bezel around it. It just looks like a picture, kind of. It's very nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nicely done.
Well, I asked the guy
Whose is
what
that?
colour. I phoned up one chap and said, "What colour's the back?" I see. What colour's the TV? And he said, "Doesn't matter. You can't see the TV. It's just picture. It's edge to edge picture." I went, "Oh,
That sounds like that frame thing. That
well, I think it's the LG do it as well. I think, yeah."
okay. We gonna start or what?
Yeah, I got a aftermarket Ambilight thing.
Is Jeff
Stuck on
frozen
the
or is he
wall.
just thinking?
Well, he can't be thinking for that long.
No, this doesn't look good.
Oh.
Jeff. Well, let me go
Nah.
on. Let me go on too. I'm gonna mute myself.
Oh, they're back.
Oh, he's back. Was that
Yeah,
a
so
trick?
that's
Were
not a
you
good
playing
sign,
a trick?
folks.
Oh.
No, that was the
What's your
internet that just
hotspot?
decided
What's your
to stop
hotspot
working.
like, Jeff?
Checking it right now.
Oh, good man. Good man. Good man. I might have just have
A lot
to
of
drink more
latency
Guinness,
again.
I think.
Oh no. We need to get this thing started. Right. Wow. Who do
I've
you
only
have?
got.
This is
T-Mobile.
that 5G thing that Nick thinks it's going to bring the world to an end.
Oh, I don't care anymore. I'm not flying.
Can I do a hotspot on that?
Yeah.
Oh shoot.
Well, let's see. Yeah. I mean, is it? I run out at 40 gigs. Will it be?
Oh, it's only like at the most it'd be
39.
like
It's only
2 or 3 gigs.
39.
Oh yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah, only 39. It'll leave you at like half a gig. No, it's like 2 or 3 because I've had to use a hotspot before and it's
Yeah,
2.5.
I don't care. I just didn't want it to like run out in the middle because I don't know.
Oh no.
I don't know what happens. I don't know how to get more.
Okay. So, that would be awesome. So let me see if I can find your.
Let me turn it on.
Okay.
Gurgle, gurgle.
Wow. His speed on his phone is like 250
Yeah.
down.
Down and like 50
Wow.
up.
Okay. So,
There's the.
Bloody hell. That's nice.
why else? Let's see.
That's like Chris Postal's. The saviour of Farnborough, as we're
This
going
is
to
the
call him
savior
now.
of Wichita.
Is that where you are, in Wichita?
Yeah, he's
I
in.
thought that was just a made-up name.
No, yesterday he was in Arkansas, and today he's in real Kansas.
Ah, well, there you go. I think they must be just switching because it's buzzing over.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully they'll unfreeze. They'll melt in a minute.
Yeah. Phew. I've had about 3 days of upset
Oh,
stomach.
okay, there
Oh,
he's
there you
back.
go.
Okay.
So if I
stand by.
disappear for a while in the middle of the show, it's because,
There you go. Tummy troubles, eh?
yeah, I have been having.
Okay, I gotta probably connect this one.
And minions. Ha ha ha. Love it, Mark. Jeff looks very concerned. Jeff is getting permanent wrinkles between his eyes there because he's frowning.
Hey.
They're called glasses, Liz. Actually, you need to start wearing dark glasses. Then you hide your wrinkles, Jeff.
No.
He's going to get Botox.
Or try some Botox.
Exactly, Botox.
Yeah.
Here.
And then he can get his lips done too.
Yeah, at least until you marry that 21-year-old cabin crew that's chasing after you.
He's pretending he's not listening.
Yeah, I know.
I hear you.
He's got his fingers in his ears.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's see if I can get this thing to reconnect. No, not that one. This one.
I think Steph's not going to miss any of the show at this rate.
I know, and I'm going to be fast asleep
I know.
till the end.
Okay, now find that window that they're
Right.
all in.
I'm going to go and have a pee.
Okay. All right, let's start the show.
Ha ha. I think Nick is not feeling in his prime at the moment. He's not feeling so good.
That's not good. Has Jeff put his tights over the lens again?
Well, yeah, it is a little.
No, I don't have
softer.
any-
It
I
is a
did-
bit of little soft focus now. It's good. It's good, but it's not quite as sharp as it was.
Huh.
It's fine. It's fine. It's okay.
Here, let me do
No
this.
complaints. Not complaining.
Basic focus. No, I guess it wasn't advanced. Autofocus. Here, let me do this. Oh yeah.
It looks like you have a filter on.
I do. Oh, it's the background. It's
filter?
supposed to be like that.
Oh.
It's a new thing in this latest operating system. I can turn it off.
I like
No,
it.
I don't care. I think
This is it off.
I think we look reasonable.
You look right there. You look great. You look great. Just great.
Okay, now it's all sharp. Okay, that's
No,
the
so
normal
it's better when
view.
it's soft. It's too distracting. That's better.
Okay, I like that better. Nice arty, shallow depth of field. Yes, Neil, exactly. That's in the newest Mac operating system. Does that
Oh,
if you turn it on?
you mean I can do that?
I think so. If you have, let's see which operating system I have here. I have Monterey.
In system preferences?
It's up in the upper menu bar. Looks like, how do you describe this? It's like
two sliders.
two
almost.
slider switches.
Oh, yeah,
on
yeah.
top
I
of
see
each.
them. Yeah, I got them.
Click on that, and then on the upper left-hand corner of that drop down, it should say Video Effects.
Yes.
And you click on that, and then it should say probably Google Chrome.
Yeah.
And then it says Portrait.
Yeah.
Click on that,
Yeah.
and then we should see the same effect.
Oh, yeah. I think it's soft. Yeah, it did it. There. Yeah.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very artsy.
I'd like it the other way around. I'd like the background to be sharp and me to be fuzzy. Can we do that?
Sure, I don't think they have that option.
Oh, shit. Oops, sorry.
Sorry, Google.
Sorry.
Okay. So here we go. Wait a minute. That's the wrong one. This is the one I'm looking for. That's the same one, but it's has more options for me to.
Yeah, it is funny, Jeff.
Click on.
Just because you're wearing a black turtleneck, it does look like you've got a floating head there. It is kind of funny. Exactly.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah, too late.
All right, you ready to go?
Ready, Freddie?
Ah, yeah, you bet, definitely.
Okay.
Did you try Roger's sound level? Did you do that?
Oh no, I should do that. Hey, Roger, we need a sound check on you, man.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. The view from our side of the cockpit door.
Too loud?
No. If anything, I was going to say too soft.
You're listening to
Sounded good here.
It's not something you want to hear.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
It's fine.
From our side.
Okay.
It's fine.
Excellent. Yeah, it's fine. I've heard that too. Okay. Let's start the show if everybody's ready.
Ready?
Recorder on, Nick?
Yes, of course it is, Jeff.
That means no. And Steph, I know you're listening. Make sure when you turn and you come and join us that you turn on
Turn your recorder on.
The second time.
You might
after
want to do an
stand up
update
here.
too.
Yeah. Okay, because we know you're listening, Steph. Watch out for that truck.
For that school
All right.
bus.
School bus, yeah. Okay, here we go. We're starting at 54-ish.
5.
55, okay.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG, it's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 504.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door, with your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from Studio 2C at the Hyatt Regency in Wichita, Kansas. Today's show is recorded on the 6th of January, 2022.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Put your light and it's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, Hong Kong investigators blame the pilots of a Canadian flight for a tail strike during landing. British Airways starts selling tickets for its Gatwick-based short-haul subsidiary, more news, your feedback, and today's playing tale. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger, and Flight 504 is ready for pushback.
Thank you, Radio Roger. He's an award-winning TV and radio reporter, currently at the #1 all-news station in the nation, 1010 Wins in
New York City.
Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, a pilot at a major legacy airline based in Atlanta, Georgia. And joining me today from his studio,
in Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire,
professional photographer, former RAF RAAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330 A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways, it's Captain Nick.
Oh, hi there, Jeff, and hi, crew. Tonight I'm being sponsored by a well-known adult beverage producer, and by golly, it does you good.
Yes, it does. And also joining us from our studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, retired financier and aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master, and our producer-director, it's Liz Piper.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Hey, the beer is talking. Sorry. So let's go ahead.
That's
you guys ready to
problem.
do some aviation news?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but Jeff, there's some bloke behind you.
Oh, he's sitting right next to me over here.
Behind you.
I forgot about this. Okay, hang on. We have also joining me in my hotel studio. He's an engineer in the U.S. defense industry, and he's a crew member on the C-47 named Betsy's Biscuit bomber. It's Nick Camacho.
Hey, everyone. Happy to be here.
Hey, hi, Nick. Welcome aboard.
All right. So that was pretty funny what we did there, huh?
That was so
Yeah,
spontaneous.
Hilarious.
that really cracked me up.
And that is just a little tease of how funny this show is going to be.
It's gonna
All
be
right.
funny.
All right. So sit back, relax, and hang on. We're going to talk about some news. Well, that was not a good idea, sir. Another one of my harebrained ideas.
stand by for news.
All right, we're going to start off with this incident. Boeing 777-300ER, Air Canada branded, happened a while back, I think in 2017 exactly. I'm sure we'll come across it here in the narrative. Air Canada Flight 15, a Boeing 777-300ER, suffered a tail strike while landing on runway 7 right at Hong Kong Cheklapkok International Airport. How'd I do on that one? All right.
Cheklapkok, yeah, very good.
Exactly the way I said it. The captain was the pilot monitoring and the initial operating experience training captain for the first officer. The crew anticipated an arrival and landing on runway 7 left. However, there was a runway change to 7 right. The weather was as expected, with a wind velocity from 350 degrees at 12 knots. The aircraft intercepted the ILS, was stabilized in the approach to 7 right on the correct descent profile with the autopilot engaged through 1,000 feet. The first officer disengaged the autopilot after descending through 500 feet. Following the reversion to manual flight, the approach profile became approximately half a dot above the glide slope. At approximately 200 feet, the aircraft entered into a series of minor lateral roll deviations, followed by a pronounced roll, first to the left and then to the right, in response to the pilot's control inputs. In response to the increasing unstable oscillations, neither pilot called for or initiated a go-around, nor did the other 2 crew members in the cockpit. At the runway contact point, the aircraft was rolling left and then right with a high rate of descent and a nose-high pitch attitude. This resulted in a hard landing with the right main landing gear contacting the runway, followed by the left main gear while the aft lower fuselage contacted the runway surface. If you're watching the video or referring to our show notes, we have some photos of the, if you go back one, there, of the landing that the the incident aircraft had. And you can see the bank oscillations, and you can also see the, kind of hard to see, it's not really a very large image there, but you can kind of see it wasn't very stabilized, that last few feet. Aircraft bounced with the right main landing gear, contacting the runway first. The aircraft bounced again, landing on the nose gear, followed by both main gear. After the runway contact and initial bounce, there was no call for a go-around, and after touchdown from the subsequent bounce, the pilot monitoring, the check captain, removed the pilot flying's hand from the thrust levers and selected reverse thrust. There was no formal transfer of control. There was a further distraction when a beverage container was dislodged from the pilot flying's holder, the FO, and dropped onto the floor, and the pilot flying bent forward to retrieve it. Okay. The aircraft then completed the landing roll and continued to the parking stand.
Well, all on its own.
Yeah. And they said, hey, all right, we're here. Let's go to the hotel and drink some beer.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so how'd I do, Captain?
Well, the good thing, well, sort of, was that they had a GoPro camera set up on the captain's side that was capturing all this in its splendid detail. And it notes in the report that it was not authorized by Air Canada. They had not given permission for this. But I think that the investigators appreciated the fact that the GoPro was set up and captured all of this inside the cockpit, including the audio of the cockpit conversations, because the cockpit voice recorder, they didn't pull the breaker or do whatever was necessary to preserve the audio, and so it was recorded over, so they didn't have the full audio necessary for the investigation. But they did, because they had the GoPro camera. And the flight crew, the captain, allowed the investigatory agency to use the video and audio from the GoPro camera. So in a way, it was like, yeah, you were not supposed to do that, but we're glad you did. So just thought I'd throw that in there. So the causes of this, an unstable approach developed due to pilot-induced lateral rolling oscillations, which, coupled with a high rate of descent, resulted in an abnormal runway contact. Contributing factors: stabilized approach criteria, the late recognition by the pilot monitoring that the stabilized approach criteria after the second 500-foot arrival gate was outside the required tolerances. Pilot flying PIO, which is pilot-induced oscillations, onset recognition. The over-controlling high gain by the pilot flying resulted in PIO. There is no requirement for PIO onset recognition or recovery actions in the operator's training procedures. But there is now.
Yeah, so do I.
The late recognition by the pilot monitoring that the aircraft was in an unstable flight condition that should have resulted in an unstabilized or go-around call from the pilot monitoring and required an immediate go-around. And the pilot flying did not initiate a go-around when the aircraft was in that PIO condition. Anyway, so they have a couple of other causes here, but you get the picture here. They came in, it's on autopilot, everything's stabilized. He clicks it off at 1,000 feet above ground, and as he gets closer to the runway, oh, by the way, we should mention, this was the first flight segment in a real 777 for this first officer. So this was his first landing attempt from what I gathered here, on the 777-300ER. His last airplane, I think he was making a transition from the ERJ 190 series, a narrow body regional jet. So I think could have been I think it's his first big, large, wide body kind of airplane experience. And that's 777-300 is quite a large airplane, actually.
Oh yeah.
But somewhere in the report, and I'm trying to find it, and it's just not showing up. It talks about the actual control inputs that the first officer made, and they were pretty significant. At one point, I think it was the full deflection of the control wheel. And if you're getting close to touchdown, and just about any airplane that I can think of, full control wheel deflection is not a good thing.
Should be a sign that something is not going right.
Definitely a sign that is not
Yeah.
good.
And what's more, up down to 500 feet, of course, autopilot flying it had been absolutely fine. The conditions weren't bad to upset him. You know, I think it's just a real lesson for him on control inputs on a big aircraft with lots of inertia, and the fact that despite the fact that there are big surfaces on a large aircraft like this to help you maneuver it, it still takes a little while for your input to have an effect. And you've just got to build in that mental lag and your expectations of what the aircraft's going to do compared with the type he flew before, which would have been pretty light and nimble. It's going to take a lot more to move a 777 around, and I think this caught him out. I don't put any blame at all on the young first officer. I just think his line captain, who was observing him, training him, would probably have done better to have stepped in earlier and arrested the problem or sent him round.
I agree. That was really the problem in this whole thing was, you're expecting someone new to an airplane, first time really flying the actual airplane, to perhaps get into a situation that is unstable. And the training captain should have been ready for that and ready to take over, or at least, declare that they should go around. I think I finally found some of the information about the deflection of the... No, I'm sorry. That's not it. Should have highlighted that. Anyway, it was a huge amount of control deflection, completely inappropriate for, being that close to the ground on a landing attempt. But the captain didn't even, when he took control of the airplane, he didn't even say, "I have the airplane." It was almost as if he was like completely taken by surprise by this last few seconds. The control PIO input by the first officer.
And this destabilization of the approach close into the ground is an obvious area of concern for, I think, any trainer. And having made the impact on the runway and bounced, there's definite cause to take over control at that point, because the next impact was near nose wheel first. Very lucky he got away without major damage to the nose wheel. So this was really not well controlled.
No. Looks like the
Am I
initial
right in
contact...
saying next one first nose wheel? One of the bounces came down nose wheel first, perhaps it's the final one.
I'm not sure about that, honestly. I don't remember that aspect of it, but I can tell you that the initial G force
I might
on
be thinking
touchdown
about
was...
the 737 we've got later, sorry.
Okay. 3.56 G on the initial contact with the runway. That's significant. Definitely a firm landing. Let's see. The aircraft was rolling 10 degrees right with a rate of descent 723 feet per minute and a nose-high pitch attitude of 6.8 degrees, which resulted in the right main landing gear contacting the runway, followed by the left main gear concurrent with the rear fuselage contacting the runway surface. So that's the damage that occurred, and I think Liz was showing us some of the slides of the damage on the tail of the 777. It was quite significant. There we go. We were looking at it again.
Oh, yeah, I am right. It said the aircraft bounced right gear, contact the runway first. The aircraft bounced again, landing on the nose gear, followed by the main gear. So,
that's no good.
No, I know. So, I mean, I don't know which one of them, whether the captain's giving a shove on the stick or something, but no, he tried to take the airplane so fast there, he got nose wheel first, and that's not a nice position.
Yeah, and that rate of descent is pretty significant to me too, because I've always been in little airplanes when I'm flying. I've always, 500 feet a minute is kind of the threshold we use for a comfortable descent, and that's like through, at altitude coming down. So they're beyond,
before you actually do the
they're beyond
flare.
that point, and they're hitting the ground at that rate of descent. That
I try to limit mine to about 1,000 feet per minute on the touchdown. Just kidding. A lot less than that. I mean, a normal touchdown right before touchdown should be Well, when we do heavy landing, overweight landing procedures, they say keep it less than 300 feet per minute at the touchdown. And I would say a normal touchdown, like a nice landing, would be maybe 50 to 100 feet per minute. I don't know where I'm getting that, but it sounds good. Sounds like a
I mean, I think the writing should have been on the wall shortly after he took manual control, because very quickly he went from being on the ILS to being 1 dot high. So I'm thinking, okay, that's shallowed the approach quite quickly, quite early. And the only way then to, get back is to, give it a few degrees nose down and let the airplane settle back on. But we're making corrections onto the glide slope now quite late into the final part of the approach. And, I think if you're on your first attempt at a landing, you've got a lot of attention to split now, because you're now trying to make quite a finessed correction onto the glide slope to reacquire it and then reassume the correct attitude to maintain it, not power down through it and bang onto the runway. Meanwhile, he's fighting with the lateral controls at the same time. So it was starting to go wrong really from pretty soon after he took out the autopilot, I'm afraid. So I'm just wondering what the jet captain was doing. Was he trying to coach him through this, or was he? I wouldn't have mind hearing the audio, but needless to say, I expect both of them have had some extra training.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Needless to say. I was just wondering what the two pilots that were sitting in the back of the cockpit in the jump seats were thinking when all this was happening. Like, this is it.
I mean, it's all very well to say that they didn't do anything to help, but there's not a lot you can do from the back of the cockpit, except perhaps point out that you haven't put the gear down or something stupid.
You can't
start yelling. Yes. Can't start yelling instructions from the back of the cockpit. So I absolve them as well, apart from the fact that they've probably out of duty hours, those two, since they haven't had any rest. So they could not really in a position to do much. Their duty day's done.
Gubby says they were probably asleep.
Yes, well, for a little while until it.
Yeah, they probably woke up.
Why am I shaking around in the back of this airplane?
You know what I thought was interesting is the reaction that the first officer had in the midst of all this, when the water bottle or whatever it was, beverage container, it dislodges from the cup holder and falls into the floor, and he leans down and reaches for this thing to grab it. I was thinking, I don't know if that would be something that I would think about doing in this situation.
Yeah. Seems like it could have been an easy out for him to hand the airplane off to the captain and say, "Oh, I've got a FOD issue over here."
Yeah, but I mean, it came out between the first and second bounce.
Yeah.
So
that's a perfect time to say, "You have control."
Yeah, that's your airplane, sir.
Your airplane.
Good luck.
I'm just going to pick up this water bottle. I love it. But I mean, we've had instances of water bottles going down, and they on the landing face, of course, they scoot straight under the rudder pedals, and they can obstruct the rudder when you're just trying to stop the damned airplane. So not an ideal thing to have kicking around. You need to just make sure that all your water bottles are well secured, chaps.
Yeah. Hey, which one of you in the chat room scared Liz away? She was with us on the video until somebody pointed that out.
Okay, so I'm back, but Jeff, I don't think you're hearing me on clean feed, because that's what I wanted to. I've been talking to you, but you're not responding, so that's why I came back.
That's interesting. Okay, go ahead and give me a test and see if I can hear you on clean feed. Okay. No, I'm not hearing you. Not seeing any signal at all from clean feed. Are you sure you have your mic selected? No.
I can see it responding at my end, but let me just connect again. I'll disconnect and come back in.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody.
It could be the connection issue.
Oh, with the hotel.
Yeah, with the hotel Wi-Fi.
Well, I guess now is as good a time as any to.
Oh,
as if by magic.
Oh, I've been
Yeah.
listening for a little while. Sorry.
Yes. Yes, I can hear you just fine. Ah. Oh, hey, Liz, I hate to interrupt you here, but Steph is here now.
I think Liz knew that actually, probably long
She
ago.
did. She knew it. She knew it long before I did.
Yes.
Thank you, Liz. I'm sorry. I guess I don't know what happened. It must during our connection loss. I think it must have. I don't know what the right term is, but it's okay now. I can hear you. Thank you. Okay. Well, hello, Steph.
Hi.
You don't mind if I don't play your
Don't play it.
your,
It's not
music
necessary.
thing? Okay.
I think at this
Okay.
point, if people don't know who I am, it's because it's their first time listening, and they should probably listen to some other episodes.
Yeah. You get the full. The full. By the way, she is a real doctor. We call her Dr. Steph because she's actually a doctor and a real
that's
pilot.
Where I was just now, doctoring, and
Yeah.
you know,
You're
I
doing
thought I
your
was going to get
doctoring
away
stuff?
with what's that? Doing doctoring things, doctory things,
Yeah.
doctoring-y things. Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, we're so glad that you made it.
Me too.
Yeah, perfect timing. Oh, yeah, actually, it is perfect timing. Thank you, Liz. We just covered one of our news items,
Yes,
Dr. Steph,
I
but the next one, I'd like you to cover this one if you don't mind.
Why is that? Oh, because there's
Yeah, I
think I
just
I
go.
think I
Just don't
probably
even
know why.
Don't even look at it. Just start reading. wait. Hang
Yeah,
on.
no,
Before
I
we
got
do,
this.
though, have you had any alcoholic beverages?
No.
Okay, well
Quick,
then,
have one.
Why don't we save
No.
this news item till later in the show, and have
Nope, too late.
Steph
I'm going to read it.
shotgun
This is
4
item
beers.
1B in the news.
Okay.
Oh, I know what's in here. It's all right. No, I don't want to install updates now. Here we go. So this is news, an accident. This is from the avherald.com. It is a Boliviana de Aviación Boeing 737-300 in La Paz.
Nailed it.
On August 3rd, 2019. The main wheels rotate in relation to gear strut. Huh? So let's find out what that means. So this is a...
Sounds like that's what they're supposed to do. I don't know.
Yes, the 737-300 flight registration, Charlie Papa 3077, performing flight 604 from Cochabamba to La Paz in Bolivia. With 90 passengers and 6 crew, landed on La Paz's runway 10 when the aircraft suffered severe vibrations on the rollout and came to a stop on the runway. The aircraft was disabled. Emergency services responded and found the left main wheels had rotated versus the left main gear strut. Huh. Okay.
Yeah, I
So it's they're turned sideways the wrong way? Is that
Yeah,
what
I
they're
think
trying
they
to
like
say?
90
Okay.
degrees from
90
the way they
degrees.
were supposed to.
Yeah, that sounds not compatible with
No good.
appropriate forward motion. 4 passengers received minor injuries. Passengers reported a number.
My neck.
I know, right? Oh, my back. You
see,
call my lawyer.
That
my
I don't
doctor.
see what's wrong with that. It just looks like a set of Boeing undercarriage. What's
They
wrong
all
with
look
we
like
go.
that, don't they, Nick?
And it starts. It starts.
It
Oh,
always is. I'm surprised it hadn't started already. Was I?
I know.
Were we talking
I
about
am
a
too.
777? Weren't you talking about 777 in the first one?
Yeah,
Like,
we
Boeing,
were.
Boeing. Oh, he didn't.
Oh
bother
yeah,
to-
but it's Air Canada. They're nice people in Canada.
Oh, I see.
Not so
I
much
see.
the Boliviana de Aviación.
Well, actually,
Folks.
I've never met any Boliviana, whatever you said, so I can't speak for them.
I think you just
I'm
had a
sure
brief
they're very
lapse. I thought
nice
he was
people.
talking about an American.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's continue. The passengers reported a number of ceiling panels came down during the landing rollout. The airline
imagine.
reported that the aircraft stopped on the runway due to problems with the landing gear. If you're watching the video, Liz has put up some pictures of the problems with the landing gear. Bolivia's DGAC, I suppose they're like NTSB equivalent, reported that the aircraft, Boeing 737-300, suffered a malfunction in the main gear and became disabled on the runway. Why do they always repeat these things 400 times?
I don't know. For us to look
let's move on a
foolish
little
and
bit.
sound
Yes.
foolish. Yeah.
So in late October 8th, 2019, they announced that all operations of the Boeing 737 Classic aircraft at La Paz El Alto International Airport are temporarily suspended.
Nailed it.
Yep. I couldn't say international. That's the word I tripped up on.
That's the easy word.
Yeah. English is the hard language for me. So, anyway,
It's just fun for me to be able to do what Steph does when when trying to do these words. Nailed it.
Nailed it. They temporarily suspended operations of the Boeing 737 classic aircraft starting October 10th for as long as technical evaluations with respect to operations and airworthiness are being carried until risk mitigations and acceptable level of safety is reestablished. I'm pretty sure that sentence was just Google translated from Spanish without any regard for grammar. So good luck if you figured that out. A series of events prompted the assessment and suspension, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Yeah.
We have an editorial note here. Incident. See also, fracture of left shimmy damper on landing. I see why I'm reading this now.
It's
Different
coincidental.
incident. Boeing 737-500 in 2018, both main gear struts collapse on landing. And also an incident in 2017 of a gear fracture of a 737-300. In a Spanish progress report, we know how Simon loves these non-English reports, reported the investigation is still ongoing. Analysis of the facts with specialists and the compilation of the final report, as well as safety recommendations, are underway. The DGAC reported that a visual inspection confirmed both shimmy dampers on both main gear struts were broken and the wheels were damaged. The captain, 53 ATPL, 9,000-ish total hours, also held a flight instructor's license and was assisted by the first officer, who was 23 and had 893 hours total and a commercial pilot's license. The FDR was examined by the NTSB, so the flight data recorder was found to be consistent with shimmy damper failures, which typically is caused by one of three factors: maintenance, high-speed landing, or low rate of descent on touchdown. Maintenance cannot be determined to be a contributing factor. It is likely that the landing speed was increased due to tailwind at the time of touchdown. La Paz is also a very high airport, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. It is also likely that one gear strut touched down before the other, causing torsional moments which exceeded the other gear's shimmy dampers limits. And then we have some pictures, which Liz has been showing. Yep. How did I do? I think the only thing I had trouble with was saying international, which
a lot better than you did when you were talking about the other shimmy damper on the earlier episode.
A couple of English lessons, you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. They, they were talking about there were a couple of factors going into all of this stuff. There were a couple of factors on that occasion too that led to my inability to read that article. But yeah. So what do you all think about? What do you make of this?
Sound like you?
A hat, a brooch, a pterodactyl.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Gotcha. See what you did there. So speaking of first of all, a shimmy damper is just basically a cylinder, hydraulic usually, or some kind of fluid, but usually hydraulic fluid, filled cylinder with a piston that basically controls vibrations, and in the GA world, it's usually the nose wheel. It's usually the nose gear.
Nose gear has a shimmy damper on the 172. Yeah.
Now, on the airplanes that I've flown, specifically the 727, the MD-88, MD-90, and now the 717, have shimmy dampers on the main gear, not the nose, but the main gear, just like this 737. And it's just it's like the shopping cart syndrome when you get that shopping cart and one of the wheels is going, or maybe more than
By the way,
one.
that's every shopping cart. You can't avoid it.
That's true. Pretty much, unless they're brand new. They kind of, those wheels start wobbling like that. A shimmy damper, if you had one on your grocery cart, would keep that wheel from wobbling like that. And that's what they basically do on airplanes. And speaking of, I have some personal experience recently with a shimmy damper issue. Just yesterday, in fact. My first officer was doing he's a very thorough first officer and does very thorough inspections, exterior inspections. And he's really great to fly with. Anyway, he came back up and said, Jeff, he said, I need to take a look at this. And he has his phone out and took some pictures of this thing. And I'm thinking, oh no. And I looked at it and he's going, this is the left shimmy damper. And this is looks like it's not at the right. And I'm thinking, I was telling Nick C here, if it had been my walk around, I probably would have gone, That looks good to me. But we thought, okay, yeah, he has a point. It does look like it's not as much cylinder showing as it normally does. And so I thought, okay, well, let's, talk to maintenance control in Atlanta and see what they say about this. And the guy's looking at the picture. You really can't tell because it's dark. And he said, let's do this. Let's have a contract mechanic come out. Engineer, Nick, for your translation.
Thank you. You have contract ones at
English
Atlanta?
population.
Wow.
No, this was not in Atlanta. This was in Northwest Arkansas. You remember the text that was sitting in
Arkansas.
Northwest Arkansas?
Yeah,
Arkansas? I'm sorry. Yeah. So anyway, he came out and looked at it, and sure enough, it was out of limits. And he said, okay, I'm going to bring over the Skydraw tank. Hydraulic fluid. I think that's a brand name, isn't it? Skydraw. Yeah. Hydraulic fluid and pump the thing up and get it to where it's supposed to be. And I think we took almost an hour delay, but we had a really good tailwind. So yeah, we were only about maybe 20 minutes late when we arrived in Atlanta. So it could have been a lot worse. But anyway, so there you go. Shimmy dampers are important pieces of equipment. And who knows? Maybe we'd be on the Aviation Herald if we if a first officer hadn't noticed this maintenance discrepancy. And so, cheers to First Officer Kurt for.
Cheers. Can I ask a stupid question?
Oh, you do all the time.
Would you like a stupid answer?
Thanks. No, I want a proper answer.
Okay.
The main wheels aren't actually meant to rotate left and right, are they? They're supposed to be
On a
anchored and
737?
pointing.
No. Yeah.
Like they're supposed to be going out.
Yeah. So
In line with
if they're supposed to be, and they're locked in line with the fuselage and the orientation of the airplane, etc., why do they need a shimmy damper at all? There's no. It's not like a shopping trolley, which is designed to rotate. It's not designed to rotate. Why does it need a shimmy damper on the main gear?
Actually, I don't think that's a stupid question at all. I don't have an answer for you, good or stupid.
It's a great question. It really is. Let's move on then. No, wait, hang on.
Is there a Boeing engineer in the house?
Liz is displaying our 50% guarantee at the APG. We've hit the threshold, just barely. Yeah. But I don't know, Nick, do you have any answer to that?
No, I'm not really sure.
What are you
either.
good for? That's the reason I brought you here.
One idea is, in the fact that you guys have multiple gear going up on one strut.
Yeah.
You can put a torsional load into that strut vertically, right? Mm-hmm. And so by putting a shimmy damper on there, that might allow for a little movement while basically damping out the load into the strut. So you may
reduces the load that gets transferred
like
to other parts
absorber.
of the
aircraft.
basically.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Actually, I was looking up the shimmy damper in Wikipedia or something like that, and it said basically a shimmy damper is like a shock absorber.
Yeah, because basically what's happening, is if there's any play in there at all, when you hit, it's going to go to the limit and it's going to put an instantaneous high load at the limit. And the the idea of the shimmy damper, right, is you got a piston and fluid, like you said, in a little orifice. And as that piston moves, it's pushing that fluid through a little orifice, and it slows the acceleration of it down.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me. Sounds like an engineer speaking.
Sounds good.
So I did have one question for maybe you and Captain Nick. This made the comment about it touching down on, it says, it is likely that one gear strut touched down before the other, causing torsional moments which exceeded the other gear's shimmy damper limits. I realize that you guys, like in a crosswind landing, you guys are more, you more commonly land in like a crab versus like a slip or like a wing down.
It depends on the airplane. In my airplane, they really stress not landing in a crab, but I think that the Airbus world, I think they're designed to land in a crab. Is that true, Nick?
Yeah, we're allowed to land in a crab. We're even in a strong crosswind, you're only expected to kick off about half the drift, and the airplane will center itself up, taking out the remainder. But the main reason we do use the crab technique and not the wing down technique is because the proximity of the wing pods to the ground.
Big, so giant engines.
You can't land, particularly as the main gear oleos compress, with a wing down, because you'll bonker an engine into the
Right.
ground.
So I guess I was just surprised that, one gear touching down, that load case would not be accounted for. Because even if you guys don't do it regularly, it seems like that's something that would happen at least occasionally.
Well, they say, we've talked about landing techniques in crosswinds on the show several times over the years, and I was mentioning I kind of stumbled upon a PowerPoint presentation by Boeing, and basically they said in this PowerPoint presentation that Boeing has engineered and designed these airplanes to whatever the demonstrated crosswind limit is. That your capability or max demonstrated crosswind, that the airplanes are certified to be able to handle that, even if they don't take any of the crab out, except for the Long Beach products. That actually said it on the slide, except the Long Beach products, which are not really Boeing products. They're McDonnell Douglas products, because I guess, they didn't make them, so they really can't, vouch for any of that as far as the torsional loads on the struts landing in a full crab. But
pretty
so they
uncomfortable and pretty bad for the gear if you do, which is why we try and finesse our landings. But I would like an airplane to be able to do that. That would be good without worrying about breaking it.
Yeah. That answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, Steph. I'm sadly disappointed that you read that so well.
Yes. Well, my
You've
apologies.
let us all down, Steph.
Yeah, it was the
We were counting
entertainment
on
value. Entertainment value is very low. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
That when we do our 1,000th episode celebration, that will not be an excerpt that we play.
No, I think you should
won't.
bring back the original article and wait until I've had several beers. And make sure I'm very sleep deprived too, because that was the other key component of it.
Okay.
I need to be on the verge of falling asleep.
You'll have to
So that you're
text
kind of
us,
in that
when you're in that
dream
situation.
state where nothing really makes sense to you or anyone else.
I'm in that state all the time, actually. All right. Let's continue. We have an update. Update!
Beep, 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 beep.
Beep, beep, beep. Insert in post. Okay. Verizon Communications and AT&T Incorporated said late on Monday, which is just a couple of days ago, that they had agreed to a 2-week delay in deploying C-band wireless spectrum, also known as 5G in the United States, averting an aviation safety standoff that threatened to disrupt flights starting this week. By the way, this has gotten major news media attention.
Oh, yes.
This is something that you hear on the normal news that usually only us aviation geeks talk about, but now it's mainstream. Probably because people are expecting to have their new fancy 5G, and it's being delayed a bit.
Where's my 5G?
By the way, thank you, 5G. Thank you, T-Mobile, for your 5G, because that's what's powering the connection here in the studio in Wichita. Okay, the agreement pushes.
Sorry.
Well, if we're doing a show, Liz, it doesn't matter if the plane crashes. We have to have our priorities. Okay. The agreement pushes back the deployment date to January 19. Verizon said the delay promises the certainty of bringing this nation our game-changing 5G network in January. Their PR department at work. AT&T said it agreed to the delay at the request of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Thank you. I select one of those, Jeff, for the post-edit. Okay. We know aviation safety and 5G can coexist, and we are confident further collaboration and technical assessment will allay any issues, AT&T said. Over the next 2 weeks, regulators, airlines, and wireless carriers will look at ways of minimizing the potential impact of interference on flight operations. The Federal Aviation Administration praised the wireless carriers agreeing to a delay and the safety measures they offered. We look forward to using the additional time and space to reduce flight disruptions associated with this 5G deployment, the FAA said. Earlier on Monday, groups representing U.S. airlines, aircraft manufacturers, and airports had urged the White House to intervene to delay the use of wireless carriers' C-band spectrum for 5G, which the carriers won in an $80 billion government auction. Anyway, so, we've talked about the whole 5G issue on this show before, and it has specifically to do with the radio altimetry devices in modern air transport category airplanes and corporate airplanes were equipped to do
you
low
better
visibility
explain to
approaches.
Nick what one of those is, Jeff.
Oh, it's like the big they're like big buses that have wings and carry lots of people.
Yeah, and what a radalt is, he won't know.
Oh, radio altimeter. Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows what that is. This
Are
guy
you sure?
knows a lot. Yeah.
I bet he's joking. I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
In fact, I think that that was one of his projects. He actually has the patent on radio altimeters.
Wow.
No, he doesn't.
I understand he's got the patent on the bit of string with the lead weight on it, but
no, I think that was
Mr. Bob,
Archimedes or Newton or something.
Mr. Plum Bob. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Bob, we call him.
Yeah.
Plum. If you're a close friend, you call him Plum.
Yeah.
That's Mr. Bob. No, I was.
Where were you?
Liz is saying 2 weeks doesn't sound like very long. I agree, Liz. I don't know really what difference a couple of weeks is going to make here.
Well, that was going to be my next question. What are you going to do
go
in 2 weeks to solve the problem?
They're going to.
We're just going to forget about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone will forget about it, and we'll just move forward anyway, and we'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah. They should have waited until, I'm sure that like if you get into the spring and the likelihood of low visibility approaches probably decreases as the year moves on out of.
I was going to say, everybody talks about the concern about crashes and losing people. The other way to approach it would just be say, all right, here are the new limitations we have, and then let people experience that for a couple of weeks. The amount of flights that are going to have to divert or go different places because of losing the capability to utilize that instrument.
Right. If you did it right now, nobody would notice the difference because in the U.S. our
Everything's in
industry
meltdown.
is in disarray anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So
no real change. Okay, fine.
That actually, if they'd really thought it through, they should have just
blamed it on
implemented
that.
it and said, "Yeah, well, this is what is normal for this time of year, so it has nothing to do with our new 5G thing." I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point, though.
Truthfully, the frequencies are separated, aren't they? They're not overlapping. Yeah. So it's just that they're adjacent. So people are worried that any overspill may affect the radars. So we don't actually know what's going to happen until people start flying in a 5G environment.
It's like when you're tuning a crappy car radio and it's like not quite on the right frequency for the radio station you want to listen to, and all you hear is like a lot of like static and like occasionally one or two words of the song is trying to pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Feels a little uncomfortable to have Captain Nick. I don't want any cell phones within 3 miles of my airplane. Active Anderson making a case for this situation.
Well, I'm not flying anymore, so I'm
He doesn't care. In fact, now that he probably is only just traveling for leisure, he'd really very much like to have his phone with him at all times.
Absolutely, my 5G phone's on all the time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, not turning this off.
So really, realistically speaking, I mean, so what's a few plane crashes compared to having this really great high-speed internet capability on your phone?
Getting 4K videos on that 2-inch screen versus
exactly. So why are we talking about
complete necessity?
Let's get your priorities straight, people. All right, so we'll see what happens in a couple of weeks. We'll definitely cover it on the show. It'll be interesting. Oops, I didn't mean to push that button or click that there.
That's what they all say.
I know. I knew that was coming. Okay. Moving on. British Airways to debut BA Euroflyer ops from second quarter of this year, 22. They've started selling seats for BA Euroflyer out of London Gatwick on BA's new London Gatwick-based short-haul subsidiary, which is to launch later in the second quarter. So, Nick, you're kind of close to the situation there in England.
Yeah, 52 miles away.
Okay, very close.
That's a lot closer than we are.
Yeah, it's true.
So, has this been garnering a lot of media attention?
None whatsoever. We'd be more interested in what the president has been saying about the 6th of January than any of this. So, we us in the aviation world are interested because I would, in particular, would like to know, and if any BA guys would like to write in anonymously if required, and let us know what the contract is like for the guys working at Gatwick for this new subsidiary. My suspicion is that it'll be well below the mainline contracts in various aspects. I'd love to know kind of
Is that what happens with the City Flyer flights, the ones out of London City? Or those contracts are different?
I don't know, to be truthful, about City Flyer, but previous efforts by BA to create a low-cost subsidiary did result in a second-class contract. In fact, for years before this, before they even tried subsidiaries, the Gatwick crews were on a second-class contract, mainly the cabin crew. But I don't know about the pilots. But
we covered this recently about the fact that they were going to scrap the whole idea for this subsidiary, right? Because the pilots were not playing.
Yeah, the union was rightfully pretty upset, I think. And is someone making comments in the background?
My phone was making a comment. I have no idea
which is quite why I'm just kind of interested to know what the union negotiations have resulted in. So BA guys, if you're listening, please let us know. We're just interested, and I'm sure the rest of the aviation world is interested as to what has had to be given up, possibly, in order to get your jobs back at Gatwick, or not. So, if they've done it and they're on the same contract as the Heathrow guys, brilliant. But if not, we'd be interested to know. I think the industry is interested to know, because those young pilots looking for a job might think they're joining the best airline in the country and find actually they're on one of their also-ran subsidiaries, and that might disappoint them a bit. I don't know.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. So, call us. All right. Moving on to this next item. This is sort of interesting. A United Airlines flight attendant works for 23 years with a stolen identity. This is from 1 Mile at a Time blog. Yep, catch me if you can, Liz says. This is quite a story. A United Airlines flight attendant has been arrested after working for 23 years using the stolen identity of a person who he had never met, who had passed away at a young age. This is a Brazilian named Ricardo Cesar Guedes, born in 1972 in Sao Paulo, Brazil. However, for the past 23 years, he's been working as a United Airlines flight attendant using the name Eric Ladd. How could this happen? So, over 2 decades ago, Guedes managed to convince officials to issue him a United States passport in the name of William Erickson Ladd, which he later shortened to Eric Ladd. The real Ladd was born in 1974, 2 years after this guy, in Atlanta, and tragically died in a car accident at the age of 4. Sure enough, Guedes was issued a passport in Ladd's name and even had that renewed several times, and also managed to get a residency permit for his partner using his stolen identity. He then started working as a United Airlines flight attendant in the late 1990s using his stolen identity, where he worked until he was recently arrested. He tried to, in December of 2020, tried to get his passport renewed under his stolen identity, and the State Department noticed various fraud indicators. So an investigation was launched. Ladd's mother was approached in July of last year, and that was the first time she had learned that someone was using the identity of her son, who had passed away. Investigators were able to compare fingerprints submitted by Guedes in Brazil to fingerprints he submitted in the United States under Ladd's identity, and they were a match. And then finally, he was arrested at Houston Airport, IAH, Houston Intercontinental Federal agents were waiting for him to pass through a known crew member checkpoint. And, he now faces several charges, including false impersonation of a United States citizen, providing a false statement in a passport application, fraudulent entry into the secure area of an airport. United says he's no longer employed by the airline, and said that they use a thorough verification process for new employees that complies with federal legal requirements. And indeed, it does seem like the government, rather than United Airlines, is to blame for the mistake.
Yeah, definitely.
This reminds me of the Day of the Jackal.
Okay.
I'm not familiar.
The Day of the Jackal, the movie in 1973, all about an assassin who used this technique of taking the identity of a child who died to get his passport to infiltrate and then attempt to murder the president of France. The Day of the Jackal. Great movie, if you haven't seen it.
Never even heard of it.
I've not seen it. People
There
in
you
the
go. I bet Micah knows about it. Anyway, this is exactly this technique he used, and it's been used obviously quite successfully ever since.
Yeah. Everybody in the live audience is enjoying my floating head effect.
Yes, it's very
It's fancy.
good. Yes.
How much
Can
did you
you
pay for
actually
that?
turn it around so that you? Oh, shame.
I can't do that. No, we're not going to have an exorcism on show, Liz. As much as you'd like that.
It's funny. I mean, I almost feel bad for this guy, because I get the sense he just kind of wanted to
he was
work.
working. Come on, yeah. Making a living.
Was
know.
it legal?
I
No, but
yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
At this point, he's been doing it for 23 years, and it's not like he was doing anything else that was, well, at least not that we know of, that was.
No, I bet he was paying his taxes and
probably,
everything.
yeah.
And he's going to go to jail for 195 years now, I expect.
I was going to say, one of the charges was like passing through a checkpoint fraudulently, and he probably did that thousands
of times.
Makes you wonder if they give him
He
a
wasn't
charge
doing it for
every time he walks
nefarious,
through there.
yeah. And it clearly wasn't nefarious reasons. He was just going to work,
$1,000 per time you walk through the known crew member.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Liz makes a good point. He said she feels sorry for the mother. This guy using her son's identity all these years.
Yeah, definitely.
That's very true, actually.
Yeah. All right. Well, an interesting story. Let's move on to this next one. And this is one we just added at the last moment because it just happened a couple of days ago. Thank you to this guy right here, Nick Camacho. This is from the Aviation Herald. An SA Airlink Jetstream JS41 registration, Zulu Sierra November Romeo Juliet, performing a charter. Okay. Oh, I have to share the pictures too, huh? Okay.
Yeah, the pictures are the best part of this.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to the audio only, at least look for the link in the show notes so you can look at the pictures.
Right. So we're doing this on the fly. I didn't even think about the pictures part of it, Liz. Okay. It's loading up in a new window, and I'm going to pop this right here, and then I'm going to share it so that people can see the pictures. And that should do it, I think. Nope. Got to hit this thing. Sorry, people. Where'd it go? Okay. Thank you. Okay. There we go. This airplane that you're watching, if you're watching the video, a Jetstream 41, was on a charter flight from Johannesburg to Venetia Mine in South Africa, was on approach to Venetia Mine when a bird impacted the right-hand propeller, causing one of the blades to separate and penetrate the captain. No, I'm sorry.
The captain. Poor chap.
I'm sorry.
The best part about this news story is that no person was actually
Penetrated. I don't know. Just stop it. I don't know what's on my mind. All right. I can't find what happened to that window that I had. I popped up here. Oh, here it is. So here, let me scroll down a little bit. So that's one of the, I think that's the entry point.
That is the entry point.
Yeah,
right there.
entry.
Yep.
If you scroll back up to the other one, you'll see where the, if you, maybe read the
Thank you, Liz.
the full story here. It's not very long. Would you like me to read this while you're sharing?
Please do.
pictures?
Somebody needs to help me.
A SA Airlink Jetstream JS41, registration Zulu Sierra November Romeo Juliet, performing a charter flight from Johannesburg to Venetia Mine, South Africa, was on approach to Venetia Mine when a bird impacted the right-hand propeller, causing one of the blades to separate and penetrate the cabin, not the captain. The aircraft continued for a safe landing.
Oh, okay.
The airline confirmed the incident, stating the aircraft operating a private charter flight struck a large bird upon landing at Venetia Airfield. None of the passengers or crew were injured, although the aircraft sustained substantial damage. So the first
captain
picture
was quoted as saying, "It wasn't a propeller. I always have a stick up my ass."
I didn't see that in the article.
Oh,
I think
sorry,
that's a different article.
I got mine from somewhere else.
Okay. All right, that's it.
Well, I was going to say, I always was under the impression that abeam the propellers, there was a hardened or a reinforced part of the fuselage to stop this sort of thing happening.
Yeah, if you look, and it may be hard for you guys to see, somebody made the comment in the Aviation Herald comments that it looks like the penetration zone is maybe just behind that. The C-47 we call them ice shields, but it's basically a additional layer of protection there. And in addition to stuff like this, protecting from intrusions into the cabin, I guess, the ice that's always slinging off the propellers if you're flying through icing conditions is going to hit and damage that part of the airplane more often. And it looks like maybe, they talk about it being a bird strike, so it maybe had some like aft movement as it was coming off rather than just coming off tangentially. Okay. It looks like it maybe hit right behind that shield.
All right. I mean, I see those two cabin windows have got a larger gap between them than the other windows. Presumably that is because that's where they have a stronger piece of fuselage, but it's obviously not strong enough in my opinion. Mind you, it's pretty unlucky, isn't it? What's the chances? It could have come off in anywhere of like 300 degrees and it wouldn't have gone through the cabin. It was just that 60-degree arc where it came off that was at the perfect angle for it to slam straight into the cabin. But that isn't going to, carry any water with someone who's sitting there.
Anyone else think it's slightly ironic that their logo is this large bird and it's
they nearly hit it, didn't they?
Oh, look, there's a broom in that seat right there.
Yeah, we were talking about that before the show, and the certification requirements for propellers is
it's 4 pounds.
4 pounds, yeah. 2 pounds for the windshield and 4 pounds for the birds, or for the props. And when I think about some of the birds that I've flown by, that
they're
does
way
not seem
bigger than
sufficient.
4 pounds. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's some big birds
Yeah,
out there.
that prop is definitely splintered. It kind of reminds me of a broom.
I guess it's a natural composite propeller. So, yeah.
Oh, it could have been. That might have been what it was. Good point, Liz. All right.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't
Oh, that's
sitting in
right.
that seat.
Listen to.
I forgot.
It's fine. You can just
can't
move on because we'll have to just go back and listen, and that's part of the charm.
I forgot that you all can't hear what Liz is saying. Of course, if you're listening to the audio only, then you heard that because I'm going to include it in there. But she said maybe they hit a witch on a broomstick. Okay. Sorry,
Could
Liz.
be.
The comedic timing I've ruined. Yes. Oh, Neil has a great comment about my floating head. 5G is perfectly safe for pilots, said our spokesman from Acme as his head floated off. Wait. You have to watch the video. My head is flying off, and you can't see it anymore. Okay. Let's move on, and let's see. Okay. Yeah, I guess we're a 1 hour mark. Thank you, Liz. And this item in the news we're going to not cover because we've already done that. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, hopefully Rick will be able to join us, and then maybe we can what circle back.
Backtrack. Circle back. Yeah.
That's what the White House news person, White House press secretary always says. We'll circle back. I'll circle back to that.
Does she ever circle back?
Yes, you're right, Liz. It was one of the most hated phrases of the year, according to some person, company, university that does stuff like that. Anyway, okay. So let us hit this little button right here. Getting to like me, getting to hope you like me too.
Oh.
All right. Shut up. I hear it. All right. Thank you, Nick. It's the Getting to Know Us segment. Well, I thought it was Nick that said that.
It was. He's sitting right beside you.
Not this Nick. No, you. You're the one that was howling, I think. Okay. So it's that time of the show where we kind of quickly figure out what everybody's been doing between shows, and who wants to begin with that? Nick Anderson is raising his hand.
Oh, really? No, that's just my background. Look, it's just the background behind me. I promise you.
Okay.
What have I done? Not a lot. I had a bit of an upset stomach this week. Actually, I don't know what I've eaten. But I've got some medicine.
Tummy hurt, tummy ache.
I've just finished my second dose, so I'm going to have another one now. Yeah, of medication. I should be fine after that. Actually, very little. It hasn't been that long since the last show, it seems. All I did was get up nice and early this morning so I could do a dog photo shoot for our friend Adam and his lovely fox red retriever that he has, puppy. A lovely, lovely puppy. So we decided we'd do a shoot in some frost, and this morning was the very first opportunity we'd had with a slightly frosty morning. So he came down and we walked all our dogs together and took some pictures. So that's great.
Nice.
Other than that, nothing really other than doing plain tales, and I'm watching my lovely wife take down the Christmas decorations. So thank you very much.
Watching her do it?
Yes. Yeah. I've still got to do my bit. I do the outside, she does the inside.
Oh, and you had the back issue and the tummy ache, so that's
understandable. Yeah, I've got tummy.
Yeah.
So you could get there. That's it. That's my week.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Well, I don't have much to talk about either, actually. Steph, how about
I
yourself?
hope you're not counting on me to say a whole lot of things about what I've done in the
not.
past week. Good, because I didn't do that much. It was New Year's, yes.
Uh-huh.
I did have plans for New Year's that was supposed to have included going to a wedding of two people who I'd never met before on New Year's Day. But it was supposed to be lovely weather, and I was actually kind of looking forward to just being outside, having a drink, mingling with some people. But we ended up not going because several people were feeling unwell and uncertain of cause of said unwellness. So that kind of got scrapped last minute, which also meant that my not very exciting New Year's Eve plans of just a nice late dinner also got scrapped. So I ended up at a local friend's house last minute. They actually... they must have known that my plans got canceled because I got a text message at like 8 o'clock at night. Oh, hey, if you happen to be in town, a couple of us are getting together and, we'll just have a small toast at midnight and go to bed. I was like, that sounds great. So went over to their house. I had like a beer. We played some pool, chatted a bit. It was kind of rainy. And toasted at midnight and came home and went to bed. I think it was pretty warm this past weekend, as I said, but also kind of rainy and overcast and humid. But kind of used that time to open up all the windows in the house and got a lot of things cleaned and sorted. And yes.
I was saying, I think I know what happened. The reason why they invited you is because you had your windows open and they could hear you sobbing inside the house, and they felt sorry for you.
They're not that close.
Not that close.
Location-wise,
Okay. Never
neighbors.
mind.
Yes, I did have to drive 15 minutes across town to their house. So, if they could hear me from there,
I thought
that
it
would
was
be-
like right next door.
no, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
nearby. They're neighbors in
Nearby,
the same
okay.
town.
Gotcha.
guess.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it was nice. It was lovely. I got a lot of stuff done around my house. I cleaned up a lot of things that had been on the to-do list. I sorted through a lot of the junk that was on my desk, which is now nice and clean and devoid of piles of papers or to-do lists. And yeah, it's kind of a nice way to reset for the first of the year. And
Cool.
then I've just been
Good job.
really, really busy with work this week, like exceptionally busy for some reason. Usually the first of the year, things kind of slow down a little bit. Everyone's made their mad, last rush to get everything done before their insurance deductibles reset and things like that. And nope, not this year. Just still busy. But that's a good thing. I like being busy.
Good.
Excellent.
Good. All right. Well, last episode I told you all about my exciting plans for New Year's Eve.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How's that?
Let me tell you.
gonna-
Didn't work out at all. And I was expecting Liz to be much more entertaining than she was, and I'm very disappointed. And the dinner she prepared for me, I was really expecting a tasty. Well, no, I never actually made it to Toronto because we showed up that morning of December 31st. I'm a little off.
It felt like July that weekend. It was quite warm.
Yeah, it was actually. So we're at Jackson, Mississippi in the hotel in the morning very early. And I noticed a couple of flight attendants there. We require 3 flight attendants on the airplane that I fly. And my co-pilot shows up, and then I said, okay, so, where's your other crew member? And they said, well, this is the second night we've been here, and I think that was scheduled that way, but the company decided to take one of the flight attendants and deadhead them back right away that first day to Atlanta to cover another trip. And of course they just assumed that the company knew that there wasn't going to be 3 flight attendants that morning, and apparently that fell through the cracks with all these cancellations and mayhem in the airline world here in the United States. And so we went, okay, great. So I called the company to see what was going on, and they said, yeah, we see that. We don't have anybody to cover the flight. And I said, okay. So we're in the van between the hotel and the airport at this time. And I said, so what are we going to do here? And he said, we're going to put a 4-hour delay because we have to find a flight attendant and then fly them to Jackson, Mississippi, and then you guys can come back. I went, okay. So why don't we do this? Instead of hanging around the airport for 4 hours, why don't we just go back to the hotel and get our rooms back? And, I think the 2 flight attendants that were there ended up just going back to sleep. My first officer and I went and had some breakfast. And anyway, we were hanging out at the hotel. And then we got a call that said, the delay is not going to be as long as we thought. Turns out that there is a flight attendant who, ironically, was waiting to fly our flight, a commute on our flight to Atlanta to go to work for a trip. And but this flight attendant didn't know that we were missing a flight attendant. And by the time she figured it out and contacted the company after being on hold for over an hour, they finally were informed that she volunteered to fly the flight to Atlanta. So anyway, long story short, the irony of it, of course, is that if we had gotten out of the van, gotten into the airport, made it through security, and got to the gate, she probably would have realized that we were short a flight attendant and would have volunteered right there, and we probably could have flown
I don't
the
believe
flight.
this at all. I don't believe it at all.
Is it too elaborate? Am I making too?
Yeah, you've
Way
made too many.
too elaborate.
Shoot. Yeah, that's
Nice
the
try,
sign of somebody
Jeff.
lying, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but no, this is
And the fact
truth,
that you
actually.
keep looking to your right. That's also that's the sign. That's the sign that
Is it? And my
shifty
eye
eyes.
twitching.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, that's the truth. It's true. It's true.
The only reason I know this to be true is because we got the details of this like in real time as it was happening.
That is true. Yes.
I'm glad I was sharing.
We got the whole sad story.
Yes,
And it was sad.
So I was very
I was
disappointed,
sad
and
for
so
you
was
guys.
Liz. That we had planned to get together. The first in real life get together was going to be at the 500th in Atlanta on the 3rd of December, and that fell through for Liz coming down. And then I thought, well, no problem, we'll get together on New Year's Eve, and yeah, that fell through too. So, oh well, maybe third time's a charm, right, Liz? Oh, she didn't sound. That was a very sarcastic response.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
did let her down.
Yeah, well, sorry.
Poor
Yeah, so
Liz.
anyway, I spent New Year's Eve in Nashville, Tennessee, which is a nice town, but of course, we had a very early in the morning.
But weren't you punished by having to fly a whole bunch more legs then?
Yeah, my reroute included. Thanks, Liz. God, that's kind of mean.
That's like Schadenfreude there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? So, my one leg back to Atlanta in the morning on Saturday, January 1st, turned into 3 flights. Anyway. And contractually, my airline is not allowed to do that, but they did it. And I flew it. So now I have to figure out how to resolve all that. But, the lawyers, that lawyer that helped out that guy for the just under $2 million settlement. Yeah. Anyway, so didn't make it to Toronto for New Year's, sadly. So sorry, Liz. That's the way things go sometimes. Anyway, well, I don't get to say anything else. Okay. She's going, okay, it's time for the coffee fund now.
She's like, move on. I'm tired of this sad,
Wait a minute,
sad
I have more to talk about. Well, Liz, you can go ahead and take a break if you want, so you don't have to listen to this. Anyway, got home on January 1st, and then I'm back out again on this trip on left on the 4th. Today is the 6th that we're recording on right now. And yesterday, I had a layover in Lexington, and I was able to meet up with our big-ass fan, Greg Peterson. And he came downtown to the hotel, picked me up. We went to a nice local taco place and had a great meal. I'm sorry, are you? Your signal's coming in really broken. I can hardly understand what you're saying, Liz. She's going, so you took lots of pictures and recorded some audio, Jeff? No. Anyway, we had a good time. And Greg, I know you're listening. Sorry, I didn't even think about doing, recording some audio, whatever. But we had a good time. Nice conversation. He's a good friend. So anyway, and then today, here I am in Wichita, Kansas, with another great APG community member, Nick Camacho.
Woohoo! Hooray!
Ooh, yeah. So Nick, what have you done between shows? I think it was 2020 when you were on last.
Yeah.
We're going to need to know all the details.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
hope
Have
you
to
can
go into
remember
a
them all.
lot
There's
of
going to be a quiz later.
What's up with you?
Not much. Just getting back to work, kind of getting back into the swing of things after the holidays. I've been working on an extensive maintenance project on my airplane, and I'm at the finish line of that, hoping to fly in the next week or two. So I'm excited to get that.
Remind us again
Going
what
again.
kind of airplane you have?
I have a Beach Debonair.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a straight tail Bonanza, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully once I get that done, it'll be a year of tests and check rides, and I got a lot of stuff to try to get caught up on that I haven't been doing the last few years.
Upgrading avionics and stuff. Is that what your big project is?
I upgraded the avionics. I did some interior work, and then took care of some 60-year-old airplane things that I found along the way.
Surprise.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Very good. That's good. So I was when I found out I was going to be here, I contacted Nick. I said, hey, if you're around, it'd be great to have you join us on the show. And so here he is. And yeah, we're glad that you're here and glad that you did. Okay. Oh, now you want me to talk about something and not do the coffee fund. Okay. It doesn't feel like it sometimes. Well, let's see. Yeah, let's do the coffee fund, and then we'll loop back to the cover art. Okay. All right, here we go. Any moment now.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup.
She does that all the time, and there's latency involved in this whole thing, and so Liz is off by like 2 or 3 beats. Yeah. No, I don't. I love it. I never hate anything that you do, Liz. All right. The Coffee Fund is your way to support the show financially. And a couple different ways to do that. One is called the Coffee Fund Classic method. And since the last episode, we have Randy Ackerman sending his recurrent donation. Thank you, Randy. And Edwin Melendez sent in a one-time donation. I met Edwin at the 500 episode celebration in Atlanta. He's lives in the Orlando area, I believe. Anyway, so thank you, both of you, for your very kind and generous donations to the Coffee Fund. The other way to support the show financially and join the Coffee Fund cadre is through Patreon. You can become a patron of the show. And all that information about Coffee Fund is available by heading over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. You'll be glad you did, and we will too. All right. Is Nicholas back?
Yes, I am, sir. And
all right, somebody needs to take us out of solo. There we go.
There we go. And by the way, I'm now drinking Guinness with.
Huh?
All right. If for golfers of the St Andrews Links up in Scotland, you know, that famous home of golf, there's a pub on the edge of the course called the Jigger Inn. And they will serve you a Guinness with there. And we used to play a game of golf on a freezing winter's night and go in there for a Guinness. And it's Guinness with port. And if you've never tried it, give it a go. It's really quite delicious.
How much port do you put in there? I'm asking him in the middle of his set.
Just a measure. No, it's just a normal glass of port. Poured it
that sounds
in.
good.
It is. It is.
Sounds
I tell you what, a
dangerous.
couple of those you can't
then
drive home.
You should read the Shimmy Damper article.
Exactly. In fact, it's really nice if you've got sore feet because you spend the rest of the day walking about 6 inches above the ground. It's very clever.
Do you have a feeling that he's making all this up?
No, it's true.
I don't know.
It's true.
Cover
I'm
art.
Find you
Okay.
a Guinness with.
So we were trying to talk about the cover art, Nick, but you decided to take a break and do the Guinness with thing.
Oh, right. Okay.
Instead. But here we are. We're displaying the cover art for our episode number 503, the Boeing McDoug bus.
You like
It's
that,
still
did you?
Yeah,
It's a great airplane.
yeah, it is. It's an unusual.
It's a one of a
airplane.
kind.
It is.
Yeah. It's got some strange modifications required to keep the tail up, but
Yeah, that's like the Osprey in engines. It looks like they have.
V2,
back.
yes, absolutely. And it's got a hot air balloon, or an airship, I should say, with some kind of naval boat slung on its belly. I'm not quite sure why it's there, but it looked
like an
good.
actual ship down there.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah,
And
I
almost looks like
love
a train
the,
engine on that, on that
and
bolt hole.
And I love the Swiss, whatever that thing is on top. That's great. What is that thing? I don't know.
Well,
I can't decide
it's a
whether
space
it's
shuttle.
Swiss
Space
or
shuttle?
American. Ish.
It looks like they grafted a Boeing nose on a space shuttle.
I think that's a perfect nose for a space shuttle, don't you?
Yeah, it's a 737
737, yeah.
fuselage.
Yeah.
Well, just the front of it, and then the.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had fun doing that one. That was kind of good.
Yeah, it is a great one.
And I've spotted
of,
the episode number.
Yeah, that was a
Oh,
tough
well
one,
done.
wasn't it,
Yeah,
Steph?
I didn't hide it. Liz is the expert. I was nice.
Hey,
to
let me
her.
have my victories where I can.
Okay.
Well done.
Good job, Steph. You found it.
Yeah, good job. Good job.
Yay!
Good job.
But I've already
Yay.
got the artwork sorted for next week, so don't worry, guys.
Oh, so we don't have to think of a title for.
No,
So-
you all have to send me headshots, but including Nick. So
Well, just take a screen grab of the video right now, and you've got Jeff's.
no,
Just
not
his
not
head.
yeah. Well, I can just cut him out. Don't worry, I'm going to just cut him out. But it would be nice to have some amusing headshots because, of course, if your head was actually floating along, you might have a weird expression on your face. So
I
give me
always have a
some
weird expression
good
on my
quality,
face.
some good quality selfies, please,
Okay. I'm sure we'll get more
including
direction
Nick and
after the
Rick,
show.
of course. Someone get Rick to do that,
Rick!
please.
Rick! Where's Rick?
I don't know.
the heck is
I'd quite like one with a
Under the impression he
sty.
was supposed
Still supervising the jackhammer.
Okay.
probably.
Yes, that's right. A jackhammer
never
and a
ending.
sty.
Oh, he's
there he is.
Oh, we
That's
should have
what
known.
Rick is still ironing that same
Okay.
shirt. It's,
Yeah.
it's almost
No, you
wrinkle
think
free.
it's the same shirt. It's actually he's got like 1,000 of the same shirts.
Oh,
so
that's-
it's
Oh,
a
no
very
wonder he's
long,
always
never-ending
ironing then.
task. Yeah.
Hey, Rick, can you tell us?
What was that?
You say it again.
missed
we,
that,
we didn't
Rick.
hear you. Rick.
Say it again.
Turn your microphone on. No, it's not on. We're not having good
That
communications
really is
today.
great.
That never gets old.
Nope.
Yeah, nope. It's never going to get old either.
Okay, that's the signal from Liz that it's time for us to move on.
She gave a visual signal as well here.
No, she just goes, okay.
No, she put the feedback
Oh,
thing
yeah.
up on
Well,
the screen.
if, you're
too.
if you happen to be looking at that, sure. Okay, here we go.
Captain, incoming message.
All right, feedback time, and we're going to start with not this one, from Keith. And we had some feedback from him last episode, in fact, and he followed up by saying, "Greetings, APG hosts. It appears there was a lot of confusion over the Sport Pilot Certificate from my last feedback aired on episode 503. Now, I think the source of most of that confusion comes from Steph. We have to blame her.
I didn't remember
Although-
anything about it, so I was trying to read through it, and then I was like, "This doesn't make any sense."
Although, to be
Better
fair,
just
if
to
I
get-
hadn't asked the question, 'cause I
That's
was,
true.
I was
I
just,
wasn't.
Nick's
I
fault.
wasn't. Thinking I was going to have to talk about that at all.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Clearly,
None
I
of
should have
us
just
were
said,
thinking.
"You know what? I haven't thought about that in years, so I don't know." But
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought
Well, you know what?
I could source the information a lot more quickly than I actually did. So we'll just let Keith talk about it because
Keith is here to the rescue,
Yes.
Steph.
Thank
He
goodness.
says, I want to provide some context as to why I chose this certificate and not the standard PPL, plus let listeners know more about this accessible alternative to the private pilot certificate. I actually started by training at a standard flight school for my private pilot certificate, but just before completing the paperwork for my Class 3 medical, I learned that medication I take for ADHD would make me automatically ineligible. This was disheartening, to say the least. A friend then told me about the light sport category, and after some quick research, learned that the certificate only requires a valid driver's license with no medical. And then he puts in parentheses, the FAA is sneaky, though, and if you've been denied a medical, you basically can't fly LSA either.
That is true. Yeah.
That is sneaky. Some more research, and I found a flying club at a nearby airport with a Cessna 162. I didn't even know that existed.
It's a Skycatcher. Yeah, they're actually pretty neat little airplanes.
Interesting. A Cessna 162 and an awesome sport pilot certified instructor. Next week, I should be ready for my first solo. There are some phenomenal aircraft available in the LSA category, including the Tecnam P2008, Cessna 162, Bristol 915, and the Piper Sport Cruiser, to name a few. Full glass cockpits, high wing, low wing, tail draggers, you name it. Sure, I'm limited to VFR daytime flying and one passenger only, but I figure most of my flying would be in these conditions anyway. That's actually true when you think about most GA flying. That's typically as much as you
just
normally
you and
do.
one other person, you know.
Yeah. And interestingly, but I figure most of the flying would be in these conditions anyway. And I get to fly. Interestingly, there is a big push on the FAA to expand what types of aircraft can be considered LSA, including increasing the weight and horsepower limits, which could eventually allow someone with a sport pilot certificate to fly planes such as a Cessna 172 or a Piper Cherokee. I've included a link to a great article on the status of this proposed expansion. And he says, thank you, as always, for an awesome and informative show. Can't wait every week for the next installment. Keith from Little Rock. And now he gave us a link to this article from General Aviation News, and it is written by Don Johnson. Wait hang on. Wait a minute. Let me look. No, it's Dan Johnson. My bad. Not Don Johnson. From General Aviation News. Thank you. Thank you for laughing. You'll have to watch the video, folks, to see why we're laughing.
It's a pity laugh.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
But so I can't tell the difference, Nick, because that's what I usually get. Yeah, that's what I'm used to.
No, that was a real laugh, that one.
Okay, good. I'll have to listen back in the recording to see if I can discern the difference. Oh, get back in the shot, Jeff. Okay, sorry. I guess when we go into this view, it kind of
little
reduces
narrower.
Yeah. Okay. Here, let me move this over. Sorry, Nick, if I'm getting too close to you. Close to
Don't
you.
get so close to me.
Oh, that's a good one, too. Yeah.
Don't stand so close to me, right?
Yeah, whatever. It seems like years since pilot... Oh, is it? Okay. Since pilots began talking about the FAA's new regulation for light sport aircraft called Mosaic, or Modernization of Special Airworthiness Certification. Mosaic. Ooh. That's pretty cool. As 2021 closes, it doesn't feel so far away anymore. Of course, this was written last year. Here's an update on what we know, with a disclaimer that everything is subject to change until the FAA finalizes its work. One aspect of Mosaic that is often overlooked, partly as the new proposal is often called by its abbreviated name, the word special. This refers to the airworthiness certificates given to specific classes of airplanes, including warbirds, experimental amateur-built light sport aircraft, and perhaps the biggest group that we may be welcoming into our airspace, drones, unmanned aerial systems, and eVTOLs, or multicopters, or whatever you prefer to call them. For clarification, Cessna, Piper, Cirrus, Mooney, and others have standard category certificates, not special. Not special. Mosaic is a big, sprawling regulation, but as always, my focus remains on light sport aircraft and the kit-built aircraft that sport pilots fly. Nearby, you'll see an information-packed slide that was shown as part of a presentation from the FAA given to LSA industry leaders at the Experimental Aircraft Association Air Venture Oshkosh 2021. The slide is only one of several FAA officials presented, but this slide is only one of several that FAA officials presented. But this one has so much detail that it's worth a closer review. And Liz is putting that up in the screen right now, concepts for expanding Part 21.190. And we'll have that in the show notes for you to peruse. and you can study it yourself and interpret the information for yourself. But allow Dan, not Don, Johnson to suggest a few items of particular interest and address some commonly asked questions. And I'm not going to read the entire article here. We'll leave that for you to do. But I thought this was I actually thought this was a very interesting article and a lot of information that I didn't realize regarding the light sport aircraft category and how the FAA is considering expanding the weight limitations and the types of airplane and that sort of thing in the future. And it looks like it's pretty a sure thing. Is that what you're hearing, Nick C?
Yeah. So I think a couple of things that you need to, I think a couple of the bedrocks of the sport pilot and light sport thing is there's a pilot certification aspect of it, which is a sport pilot, which is what the listener was talking about. And there's also light sport aircraft, which is a certification basis for the airplanes. And they kind of work hand in hand. But the idea was, like you said, to give lower capability airplanes, give people an opportunity to fly lower capability airplanes with lower restrictions. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the frustration with the existing system is we just kind of, something similar exists over in the UK. Nick, I don't know if it's called a sport pilot over in Europe, but
I'm not the guy to ask, quite honestly. I've been out of that environment for so long, I don't know the details, but I can look it up for you next week if you'd like.
Okay. I just know that we basically just adopted their rules. And one of their rules was, the limit on LSA airplanes and also the sport pilot certificate. The limit is 1,320 pounds of gross weight, which is a weird number until you realize it is equivalent to 600 kilograms. So that came over from Europe. Uh-huh. And so a lot of people were pretty frustrated with that. It kind of hamstrung the effort from the beginning because it disqualified Cessna 150s, Cessna 152s, Piper Cherokees, 172s, airplanes like that, mm-hmm. that are not necessarily more challenging to fly, but kind of limited the options for people getting sport pilot licenses. So the intent here is to kind of make a more, common sense rule. It's such a kind of catchphrasey thing to say, but they're trying to rewrite the rule in a way that takes advantage of those airplanes. So that, the things that I've heard them talking about is making the limitation based on some sort of equation with the stall speed of the airplane, gross weight of the airplane, a few of those factors, so that if you're holding them to a lower medical standard. I guess the concern is if you have a medical event, a medical event in a 1,260 pound Luscombe versus a medical event in a 1,500 pound Cessna 150 are probably going to have pretty similar outcomes to mm-hmm. the person in the airplane and the people on the ground. So the real concern is, when you start going up in capability and speed and systems and stuff like that. So I think they're trying to rework it to take more advantage of those airplanes.
There was a nice phrase in here in the article, I think, that talked about keeping light sport aircraft light and docile. And I think a lot of us would agree that, like you said, the 152, 172, some of the Piper Cherokees kind of fall in that light and docile category in terms of how they maneuver and can be handled speed-wise. Yeah. Yeah,
and 10 or 15 years ago when this rule came about, one of the ideas was that it'd be a cheaper way to get into aviation. Both it has lower entry requirements from piloting, from mm-hmm. the piloting perspective, training and everything, but also it's a new certification class of airplanes. It's actually certified under ASTM standards versus FAA standards. But the fact of the matter is a light sport airplane, a new airplane, is going to cost you six figures, whether it's a Champ, they were building new Champs for a while, new Luscombes, that Cessna 162 Skycatcher, which is essentially a modernized 150 when you look at it. Mm-hmm. Those airplanes were, I think they were marketed at 180 and they ended up being a little over 200. So they're not very capable airplanes, but it's just the cost of everything that goes into new airplanes, from the parts and the labor. Product liability is a significant impact on them. It didn't really have the intended consequence of lowering the entry cost for newer airplanes.
Yeah, I think the whole idea was get more people into general aviation, right? And I'm not sure that really happened on that end of the spectrum.
True. Yeah, and then subsequently they passed the
Basic Med. Yeah.
Which kind of does a similar thing. You have to pass one medical, but it kind of does a similar thing where it takes it out of the AME's hands and puts it back in the pilot's hands in terms of making more decisions on your airworthiness. So,
Sure.
Okay. One of the questions,
which is an interesting area to put it, because the motivation for a pilot to self-declare their unfitness is questionable at times, and the same would be said if they did their own maintenance on their own aircraft. Some people would be meticulous, others would not, because they would just want to do it inexpensively and just want to go fly. So, when you start talking about weight categories, that an aircraft can cause a significant amount of damage and can carry a passenger while they're doing it. I still question, I in my own mind would question the ability of a pilot to self-assess their medical state and to maintain their aircraft, for example. So I think I see this moving into an area that is currently quite well regulated and stopping a lot of those regulations having effect.
I think the counter to that is the way that our medical system works, at least here in the United States. A significant number of the issues that you'll see are often not going to be caught by the medical system, right? I mean, Dr. Steph would be better to talk about this than I would, but
you're talking about what wouldn't be caught by the AME necessarily.
Right. So in my instance,
it's better off, and here again, you're kind of assuming that these folks have a primary care provider, GP that they're established with, who knows their history. Right. That's an entirely different can of worms. But if you're that person who, has been established with a primary care provider, someone who knows your medical problems, knows how long you've had those issues, knows what types of medications you take for it, knows how well those issues are controlled, they could very well speak towards, your ability to safely, from a medical standpoint, pilot a general aviation aircraft that is light and docile.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you're just checking a box, right? In my case, I have to get a medical once every 5 years. So I'm only seeing that doctor every 1,600 days anyway.
And it's
so
probably not your regular medical doctor anyway, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely not. Yeah. And so I would argue, at the end of the day, it still comes down to a pilot making a decision themselves on their airworthiness from a medical standpoint. I'm sure that if you broke down the incidents, it might go up slightly if you're talking about 1 day out from a medical examination with an AME versus 1 month out versus 1 year out. But I think at the end of the day, a pilot is going to have to make that decision regardless of the regulations.
Yeah, that's part of your, aeronautical decision-making process. Are you safe and able to go out and fly an aircraft? There was that whole I'm safe checklist that the FAA was pretty big on for a couple of years, probably still are. But basically just going through an internal checklist of, hey, am I fatigued? Have I been using substances I shouldn't be using? Am I sick in any way? Am I in the right mental state of mind? There's a lot of things that go into it that they want you personally to be cognizant of. And if you find that there's issues, then, get the treatment you need before you get behind or get into an aircraft.
I'm a great believer personally of peer groups, peer pressure, peer monitoring, and so I'm all in favour of people getting access to aviation. That's not the point I'm making. What I'm trying to make is that people need to be very responsible about how they assess themselves, and cutting corners to sort of to short circuit that only works if you're a bit of a loner. If you're in a group of people who monitor each other and advise each other and are friendly and are willing to say to a friend, you really shouldn't be flying with that medication, or you sound like you've got a cold. Are you right to fly today? I think that personally, that is the best way to really do this. Sometimes the individual can be under all sorts of personal or pressure. Just I really need to get to see my mate 200 miles away. I'm going to fly, And he
Sure.
needs a friend to pull him up short. I mean, clubs, I think, are fantastic in this. And I think Steph would agree with me, because I think in the jumping world, almost everyone is a member of a club, and they jump together and they know each other, and they would say something if they thought one of their friends wasn't, they didn't think they were fit to jump that day.
Oh yeah, most definitely, and they can be a good source of like just casual conversation about it too, where there's not a lot of the pressure or concern. Oh, hey, if I talk to so and so about this, I'm going to not be able to fly for the long term because it's going to impact my medical or my ability to do so. But if you just casually mention to someone, oh yeah, I had a bit of a sinus issue last week, but it really kind of seems like it clears up. Perhaps that person says, hey, that happened to me the other week and I thought it was better and then it wasn't. And, I had a lot of ear trouble related to it or sinus pressure related to it. Maybe you should, really give it another couple of days and just make sure, just as a very easy example, just that kind of casual conversation can really make you, just reevaluate the choices you're making in that moment and make sure that they're the correct ones. I can always argue this type of thing from both sides. At the end of the day, people are people, and they're driven by all kinds of motivating factors, both internally, externally, both good and bad. I would argue that in the case of people who have spent a lot of time and money and effort to obtain a pilot certificate, in general, they're not going to want to do things that are going to jeopardize that or themselves or others. And I think those can be very strong motivating factors to make sure that you're doing the right things when it comes to maintaining your own health and maintaining your certificates, whether that's your medical or your licensure.
Yeah. And I think looking at the light sport pilot thing, you can almost look at it like a progression. In the FAA, I think they did some things wrong with the light sport at the beginning. Like you said, if you have a problem where you can't pass an FAA medical, you can let it lapse and then fly on your driver's license. That's the only requirement for light sport, is you have a valid driver's license. And so that actually drove a lot of guys away from going to the doctor and getting medicals, because they're like, well, if I don't go, at least I'll be able to fly these little airplanes. Now with basic med, they basically got another crack at it. You're going to the doctor more often because you have to do it either every year or 2 years. There's some recurring online training happening. So I think, like Steph said, I think it's a little more interactive. You're dealing with a doctor that knows you better. And there's some FAA interaction as far as the online, there's online modules that you have to take and do to make sure you're aware of things that you should be paying attention to, or things you should be aware of that might affect your ability to operate the airplane, that you don't get if you just go get a medical every 3 years or 5 years and you have 15 minutes or 30 minutes with a doctor and he's just trying to run you through there and get paid. So
I've never heard
you
of
make
anything
some
like that.
good points. You make some great points.
I will say
there.
there are some fantastic, and the vast majority, I would argue, are great aviation medical examiners.
Oh, yeah,
They've been
totally.
through a lot of, no. I know you're not saying that. I just want to, just say that they exist for a reason, because they have very specific training for aeromedical concerns, and they are still, even if it's not your regular doctor, if you're seeing them every 5 years, they may bring up things that you hadn't considered that are important to know about. Not necessarily things that will jeopardize your medical certificate, but things that you should be aware of and thinking of. So.
Oh,
my
tornado
drone
coming through.
Let me go take care of my drone. I'll be right back.
You're launching a drone in your
I know.
studio.
Is that your Zumba?
Yeah. I got a new Roomba, and it has the self emptying feature, because I was tired of always having to yeah.
It really is
so
a
for
robot
a
vacuum.
very ridiculous amount of money, your vacuum robot that you don't have to do anything with and set on a schedule will also empty itself.
Okay.
And this one has a camera, so it will avoid things that you really don't want it to run over, like pet accidents. And yeah. There might have been some motivating factors for this particular
How does it empty
model.
itself?
It has a base that is attached to another little vacuum, and
Like a trash can under it?
Yeah, but it's got like a little trash can attached to the base, and that's what that was. It's yeah.
I love it.
Wow. This modern world.
We're finding out so much about.
I mean,
Steph,
I could
aren't
be
we?
I could be spending time right now vacuuming my house, or spending time with you fine folks. But
I know
why,
you'd rather
why
be
not,
vacuuming, but
why not
thank
do
you for.
both?
Well,
Yeah, what else
Rick's ironing, so why shouldn't Steph be vacuuming?
Do they make a robot iron for Rick?
That sounds like a good show title, actually.
Robot iron?
Rick ironing and Steph vacuuming.
I'm sorry, I've got my show title too late.
Domestic,
Trying to get out of the darn
domestic APG.
assignment that I have. Okay. Well, I am. Thank you, Liz. So great discussion, by the way, spurred by Keith and talking about light sport aircraft ratings and basic med and such. And if you want to learn more, we just kind of, got a little taste of this article from General Aviation News and written by Don Johnson, formerly of Miami Vice. So we'll have that in the show notes. But I think we should move on with this. Now, we talked about this accident, this crash, in our last episode, the Learjet that crashed in El Cajon. You need to take a break?
No, I'm good.
Okay. The San
He's
Diego
got a bladder the size of a horse.
Well, I think I'm getting thirsty myself, but we'll put it off a little bit longer
My
here.
beverage is empty. Yeah.
Is it? Oh,
Is
yeah.
it right?
Let's.
No, we can wait till the plane tail.
No, we're gonna go on till plane tails. Yes. Continue.
Okay.
Soldier on.
Darn it. I thought we were going to go ahead and take a break. Okay. Dr. Dan sent us some feedback regarding, and in fact, while we were covering this news item in the last episode, Dr. Dan was in our live audience. He may actually be in our audience today. I'm not sure. Okay, haven't seen him today. But he mentioned while we were covering this live that he lived nearby in the El Cajon area. And so we had said he would follow up and send us some feedback. And he did send us some audio feedback regarding this. And so let's hear what Dr. Dan has to say about this Learjet crash.
Hey, APG crew. Dr. Dan here. Like I said last week in the chat room, I wanted to just give a little feedback onto the Learjet crash here in San Diego, California. Just a little bit of insight. Gillespie Field kind of sits in a valley between a bunch of hills, and within a mile or so, there are some significant hills. I'm not going to call them mountains because they're not, but there's some significant hills surrounding Gillespie Field. And it's part of the reason why the minimums are so high into this airport. You look at the minimums for runway 17, which is the approach that this crew took into Gillespie. And they're 1,360 feet for the minimums into runway 17, and even the localizer D, which would get you into 27 right. Minimums for, I'm not sure if they're A, B, or C, but they're either 1,500 or 1,940 feet, which is probably the reason that they tried to come in the way that they did. I guess the reason they chose 17 was so they could get underneath the clouds, and they wanted to cancel IFR and circle around to 27 right. And I assume the only reason to do that is because circling to 27 right is not available at night according to the plate. And the reason for that is only partially made clear on the approach plate. I sent Liz a couple of pictures, so if she can put those up. This is daylight looking at the two hills that you have to go between on final for 27 right. This picture's kind of taken on a base leg, I guess, for 27 right, or left, whatever one you wanted to land at. The hill on the right has a peak of 1,273 feet. The peak on the left is just over 800 feet. And so I can only imagine, looking at the ADS-B data, when this Learjet comes in, it didn't look like after he made his circling approach that he ever got above 800 feet. And so I can imagine that when he's asking for the lights to be turned up, it's because he's got a mountain in between him and the runway, and he probably doesn't see the runway and doesn't realize how low he is, even though they were familiar with the airport. This picture was taken pretty close to where he flew over. Like I said last week, I was about 2 blocks away from the crash site, which is just behind the palm trees that you can see in between the 2 hills. And he overflew just to the right of where I'm standing. So this was pretty much his view. If you switch to the nighttime picture, this was pretty much his view of approaching into the airport, obviously a little bit higher, but those mountains are pretty hard to see. And the weather actually in this picture is a little bit better than it was the night of the crash. The night of the crash, I think METAR was ceilings reported at 2,000 and ceilings reported in this picture are 2,500. But you can see how those clouds are starting to come down in between the 2 hills. And this is pretty typical of this area when we get clouds, which isn't very often. But I can only imagine coming around, losing sight of the runway, not seeing what's in front of you until you realize that the runway's coming around and you've got hills in front of you and there's no way you're getting over them. But I hope that this gives a little bit more insight as to exactly what happened and where it happened and why it happened, because these guys are circling around a hill that you're not supposed to do at night. Unfortunately, there's plenty of airports with lots longer runways that are not too far of a drive. Within 20 minutes, we've got 2 pretty decent airports with a lot bigger runways. And it's just a tragedy that this had to happen. Anyways, talk to you guys next time. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Dan. Great feedback regarding this terrible tragedy. And Nick too, and I were discussing this before we started today's recording, and you had mentioned that you had seen some conversation on an aviation forum that you follow.
Yeah, I'm. There's an online forum called Beach Talk that I'm a part of, and there's a lengthy discussion on that. And it's, those are always interesting for me because I don't have any experience in fast movers or jets, so it's interesting to get a lot of experienced guys' perspective on what was going on there. But it just seems like one of those things where they might have been doing everything right by the letter of the law, but you look at all the things that would make the hair stand up on the back of your neck if you were in that airplane, in hindsight now, seeing everything that they would have had to accomplish to get that airplane on the ground. And it's pretty, it would be a very challenging feat.
Well, didn't you just say that one of the people in the forum, or they knew someone who flew a Cub, I think?
Yeah, someone had posted a video of flying onto that, flying the pattern for that runway in the daytime in a slow moving airplane, a tailwheel airplane, like a Citabria or something. And it's, it's not unnerving in an airplane moving that slow, but it's very easy to see how you can, during the day, you're pointed straight at that hill or mountain, whatever Dr. Dan was referring to, for a period of time while you're maneuvering towards, final. And it's not a big deal when you're moving 70 or 80 knots and you can see everything. But then when you take into account the fact that they were, moving a lot faster, their turn radius was going to be a lot bigger because of that. It's night, so you don't have the same perspective of all the things around you. You're limited to items that are going to have lights on it. There's a lot of those factors that go into it that make it, that seem like they drive up the level of difficulty so quickly.
Yeah, very challenging. And that Learjet, in that wing and the speed at which you have to fly the thing to prevent it from stalling. It's very challenging airplane. I've never flown the Learjet, but I've heard it's a very challenging airplane to fly.
Yeah, and just the general idea of they're flying a circle to land approach. You guys always talk about having very stabilized approaches and all this and all that. And that's just the complexity of that's just increased, right? Because a lot of times you're going to circle to a different runway, or you're not getting dropped right in the barrel of having a really good stabilized approach. You're going to have to do something in the airplane, maneuver in the airplane. Now, this was their home airport, so you would think that they'd have a little more muscle memory or a little more background on it. But still, at the end of the day, they're getting dropped at a point near the airport, and they have to do a significant amount of maneuvering of the airplane to get it, down onto that short final point versus, most instrument approaches they're flying in that airplane where they have very low maneuvering and very straight
right. Usually the
paths.
Runway is like right in front of you, and everything is all nice and stabilized all the way down. Yeah. Good point.
That's a nice
Yeah,
segue
you make
to
some
the...
great points. Sorry, Steph, you go ahead.
Yeah, we're probably not finished talking about this one, but that's a nice segue to the next story in the list if we're going to do that before Plain Tales in terms of stabilized approaches. But,
Okay, I'll just say that you're quite right, Nick. And when you're not used to doing these kind of mixed visual instrument approaches, because it's night, and when you're doing an established one that you might have done before, a proper circling approach, that's kind of a different matter. You kind of got lots of keys to hit on your way around. You're flying it mostly on instruments, and you're only relying on your visual aspects when you're setting up for the final part of the approach. Perhaps halfway around finals, you're lining up with the runway visually. A lot of that is done, in my experience, in my type of flying, on instruments, on a pattern that you've already thought out, briefed, and have set up keys for. If you're not doing a proper circling approach, and you're kind of doing it halfway house, you're sort of inventing something on the night that is legal, but perhaps not quite as well thought out as a proper circling approach. You can lead yourself into this kind of situation where you're flying well below the altitude you should be for the terrain, but you're not really doing it with the planning that you should do, and that to me is the essential part of it.
Yeah, and I think an obvious point to that, if anybody listened to the ATC audio of it, is when that pilot says, "Hey, you need to turn the landing lights, you need to turn the runway lights on, turn them up." I don't remember what he said.
Should have been a big cue for him.
Up.
That either means they flew into a cloud or they're on the other side of the mountain, and both of those seem pretty terrifying.
Absolutely,
at 140 knots.
Absolutely.
Fast they're going.
I know a captain friend of mine who failed his line check one year doing an approach into Athens. He was miles out. I mean, like 40 miles out. And he had decided he was going to do a visual approach because it was a beautiful night. And he had forgotten that between him and the airport there was a ridge line. And he effectively put himself in a position where at 40 miles he had dropped below, he had let the angle of his flight path put that ridge line between him and the airport. And he just couldn't see it. He was just so used to doing that now, and he'd done it lots of times. And this night he let himself get a little bit low, and now there was a piece of, Mother Earth between him and where he wanted to be. And the line check captain looked at him and said, what are you doing? Why are we continuing this descent when there's a piece of concrete or piece of rock between us and the airport? So, he had to completely rethink the way he operated the airplane, because he worked himself into a situation where he was used to doing this approach and no one had picked him up on it.
Yeah. Yeah, the night visual approaches are very dangerous, especially if you're flying somewhere where you don't fly into very often. And it's so easy to kind of go, okay, you're cleared the visual approach and just dial in the final approach fix altitude without considering the fact that there might be a lot of terrain around that you can't see if it's a dark night, not a moonlit night. It's very dangerous. And I've heard many cases of this sort of thing happening. Yeah. All right. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this one, Liz, since we're talking about unstabilized approaches. Got a little video that Steven sent in, and he said, do you call this a stable approach? He says, not what I would expect to see, especially at a difficult airport. And here we go. We're going to show you this right now. Madeira, airport spotting. Nice 737 on approach, I believe. Jet 2 brand. At Madeira.
Have some Madeira now, Madeira.
And looks all nice and stable and coming down. Now, some of this might have something to do with the camera angle and the shortening effect. Yeah, foreshortening or whatever, shrinkage, whatever you want to call it.
It's just the camera angle, dear.
Yeah.
Yes, you're not looking at the right angle. And so anyway, it almost, I can't tell here if he's doing S turns or he or she is doing S turns to lose some altitude because it does look sort of steep, or if it's just that they
right on that
overshot
center
a
line.
little bit. Yeah, pretty close.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough.
Lined up with it. Anyway, wait.
Yeah. All right. So, of course, you know, the video that we're watching here doesn't really have any narration. So we invite you to watch the video yourself. We'll have a link to the YouTube video. But honestly, it's hard for me to say that anything was really that unusual about this approach because we really don't have the data that shows what the descent path angle was or anything in this, because as I said, sometimes the lens of a camera will play tricks on what you're actually viewing here. Yes, dear, it's the camera. That's the problem.
That's what John Jeremy said.
Oh, he didn't have to.
That's what
actually.
The person said.
Yeah. So, any comments regarding?
I thought it was horrible. It made me sick to my stomach. He should have gone around.
There you go.
Yeah. I'd love to say that I never make any mistakes or never do anything I shouldn't do, but I've overshot the runway, the base to final turn. I think the concern here is that it seemed like the guy overshot it. And like you said, he overcorrected to the other side of the runway, and it was it wasn't an overshoot. It was like 2 or 3 oscillations. And it seemed like after that first mistake, maybe once you
just say, you know what, let's try this again.
Let's try this again.
That wasn't so great.
But it wasn't as bad as that Air Canada 777 incident at Hong Kong, I would say.
No,
we've seen some other ones in interesting parts of the world with challenging runways.
Oh yeah, there's a Air China 74 going into the old Kai Tak Airport.
Oh, that's
hideous. It's titled "Real Men Don't Go Around." Which was kind of the attitude back in the 70s. But we hope we've all got past that. But I'm still bemused why he flew so far through the centre line on the first attempt to turn onto the centre line, because it wasn't that big a turn. And I'm beginning to wonder whether Nick might be right, whether he's decided he's going to do an S-turn. Having decided to do that, he didn't do the S-turn very well. So
they were not well executed S-turns. Like, we're a little tight here for, but just do a couple S-turns and we'll be fine on our distance. And okay.
Yeah.
Well, you've heard the opinions of our esteemed aviators on the panel here, and I'll just say,
not
hey,
impressed.
Look pretty good to me. All right, it's now time.
I'm an armchair pilot nowadays, so don't take anything I say for.
It looked pretty much like a normal approach for me. So
I'm not going to say
move
anything
on.
about my normal approaches, but for the type of operation that this is, I am not. I was not overly impressed either. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh well. Yeah, let's move on then with this week's installment of the Old Pilot's Plain Tales, and it's entitled Flight 574 and the Banning of Indonesia.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales, Flight 574 and the Banning of Indonesia. It was New Year's Day 2007, and the 96 passengers booked on Adam Air Flight 574 from Java to Sulawesi boarded their Boeing 737 4Q8 for their 2-hour trip. The airline had a habit of describing its aircraft as new, but this 737 had been manufactured 18 years previously and had flown with Dan Air, British Airways, GB Airways, Transaero, the WFBN TV station, Air One and Jat Airways before being taken on by the growing airline Adam Air. 7 years previously, the Indonesian government had adopted a policy of deregulation in the country's aviation industry, which had resulted in a boom of start-up airlines, many of which were low-cost carriers. This decision wasn't matched with an equivalent ramp-up of government supervision and control. The result was fierce commercial competition amongst the new airlines with little or no oversight. Unsurprisingly, the cost and corner cutting that inevitably occurred resulted in a steep rise in accident and incident rates, which were often attributed to poor maintenance. Adam Air was one such new airline, and it had been winning the race as Indonesia's fastest-growing low-cost carrier, although it offered a level of service that was a little above the bare-bones fare that was usually expected. Whilst the onboard service might have been good, behind the hangar doors things weren't quite so rosy. It's of safety regulations, and they were frequently pressured into taking aircraft that were in a poor mechanical state. The Associated Press quoted one pilot as saying that every time he flew he had to fight with the ground staff and management about all the regulations you had to violate. He also said that pilots who confronted their seniors were usually grounded or docked pay. The list of safety misdemeanors was long. Personnel were required to sign documents to allow aircraft to fly while not having the authority to do so, knowing that the plane was not airworthy or both. Indeed, one aircraft flew illegally for months with a damaged door handle and another with a damaged window. Faulty parts on the fleet to deliberately avoid mandatory repair deadlines, and pilots were ordered to exceed their legal limit of 5 flights a day. Most pilots who joined the airline when it formed soon left over safety concerns, and as a result they had a large and quick turnover of employees. Unaware of any of this, the passengers of Flight 574 climbed onto their aircraft, oblivious of the fact that the very aircraft they were boarding had been subject to numerous maintenance faults in its recent history. In the preceding few months, the captain's vertical speed indicator had been written up by the pilots 52 times, and the inertial navigation systems 51 times. Flight data recorder failures had received 14 complaints, as had the cockpit lights, autopilots, flight directors, instrument lights, and there were multiple other malfunctions which included sticking flaps and faults with the weather radar. The rectification of these failures mainly resulted in components being pulled out and pushed back in again, known as re-racking, the swapping of failed units with those on different aircraft, resetting circuit breakers, cleaning electrical contacts, and replacement of relays. The crew of 6 who were operating the aircraft that day were led by 47-year-old Captain Refri Widodo and First Officer Yoga Susanto, both very recent to the company but with good experience in the industry. The captain had over 13,000 hours with 3,800 on type, and was flying the aircraft on that leg, whilst his first officer had 4,200 hours with 1,000 hours on type and was operating as the pilot monitoring. Behind them in the cabin were 4 cabin crew and a passenger complement of mainly Indonesian nationals, but also an American family of 3 and a German. All appeared normal as the aircraft taxied out at Juanda Airport in Surabaya and took off into thick weather that extended up to 30,000 feet. It was due to land at Samratulangi Airport in Manado at 1600 local time. The pilots reached 35,000 feet, which put them above the stormy weather below. The flight path was pretty much a straight line, but the crew commented on a strong crosswind over the Makassar Straits. It was at the halfway point, as the 737 was over the Java Sea, approaching the western coast of Sulawesi, that radar contact was lost, and the flight stopped responding to radio calls. No distress call had been made. Flight 574 had just disappeared. 3,600 police and army personnel were mobilized to search for the missing aircraft. Military aircraft with surveillance equipment, including infrared cameras from the Singapore Air Force, joined the search, as did a number of helicopters. The Indonesian Navy's sonar-equipped minesweepers were dispatched, and it deployed mini-remote submarines, but no trace of the Boeing could be found. The mountainous jungle terrain of Sulawesi and the poor weather with strong winds, low cloud and heavy rain hampered efforts, as did reports of unidentified distress beacons made by overflying aircraft, a Singaporean satellite and a local military base, none of which helped in locating the downed airliner. The search continued until the entire coastline of Sulawesi had been covered without a clue as to the whereabouts of the missing aircraft. Even relatives of missing passengers who had overflown and observed the tumultuous seas and rugged mountainous terrain agreed that the chances of finding the crash site were slim. Then pieces of wreckage began to be found by fishermen or were washed up onto beaches. Part of the right tailplane and wing were pulled from the sea, and passenger seats, life jackets, a food tray, a tire, an ID card, and other small debris were recovered. In passenger clothing and even a trace of hair from a headrest was found, but the crash location was still unknown. Then, 2 weeks after Flight 574 disappeared, a pair of Singaporean towed pinger locators arrived at the search area and were deployed by the U.S. Navy reserve ship Mary Sears, which was assisting in the search. After a week of use, one of the locators picked up a signal from the underwater sonar transmitters attached to the flight recorder devices of the 737. They'd found the black boxes. After multiple sweeps of the area by the Mary Sears using its side-scan sonar, a wide area of wreckage was located 42 miles off the coast and confirmed to be all that was left of the crashed aircraft. However, at a depth of 2,000 meters, 6,600 feet, a senior Indonesian marine official said that he didn't believe the equipment required to retrieve the boxes from that depth was available in any Asian country. The search had already taken 24 days, and the battery powering the underwater locator beacons was only guaranteed to last 30 days. After 33 days, the families of those lost travelled out on boats and threw flowers onto the waters over the remains of their loved ones. By now the Mary Sears had withdrawn on other duties, and an unseemly argument began over the cost of recovering the flight and voice recorders and who would pay. Vice President of Indonesia, Yusuf Kala, went so far as to question the need to retrieve the black boxes at all. As the squabbles went on, the signal from the black boxes faded as the batteries were exhausted. But finally, 7 months later, Adam Air signed a contract with a civilian company which had the underwater equipment capable of recovering the vital data boxes. Despite the difficult conditions and the fact that the boxes had moved some distance from their original locations in strong currents, near the end of August, a Phoenix International underwater robot scouring the seabed found and recovered them both. 6 months later, the findings of the inquiry were published. With both the voice and flight data recordings available, a firm conclusion was swiftly determined. Soon into the flight, one of the aircraft's inertial reference systems began to drift excessively, to the point where the Ujung air traffic controller exclaimed, "Where is Adam direct to? My God, he's flying north." Their heading should have been 070, east-northeast. Throughout the final 45 minutes of the flight, the two pilots had been trying to solve the inaccuracy of their navigation system to the point where they had become engrossed in the problem. It was one that, had they followed their quick reference handbook correctly or had sufficient system knowledge, could have been promptly solved, and there were plenty of alternative navigation aids available to them. To quote the inquiry, their actions to rectify the problem resulted in a number of decision errors. For the last 13 minutes, they concentrated on their problem with minimal regard to other requirements. In their attempts to rectify the fault, they selected the number 2 IRS away from navigate mode to attitude. This action had several repercussions, the most important being it disconnected the autopilot. All the time the autopilot had been engaged, it had been holding a little left aileron to counter a tendency for this aircraft to slowly roll right. On disconnection, the control wheels centered, and without that input, the aircraft began to gently bank right at between 1 and 4 degrees a second, well below the rate needed for our balance organs to detect. Still engaged in trying to fix the IRS system, the crew seemed not to have noticed the autopilot disconnect horn blaring, nor the annunciation of bank angle, bank angle, bank angle, bank angle, as the aircraft rolled past 35 degrees to the right. Their preoccupation with the IRS malfunction allowed them both to lose situational awareness, and even after they reached 100 degrees of bank and 60 degrees of nose-down pitch, with the overspeed warning clacking, they didn't roll wings level before attempting to pull out of the dive. By pitching the aircraft, all they achieved was to tighten the descending spiral that they had found themselves in. With a descent rate that peaked at over 52,000 feet per minute, an indicated speed that reached 490 knots and a Mach of over 0.92, their attempts to pull the aircraft up resulted in a G-force of 3.5 Gs, considerably more than the airframe could cope with. At around 10,000 feet, there was the sound of 2 loud thumps as the aircraft structure failed, and the flight load went rapidly from plus 3.5 to minus 2.8 G as the aircraft broke up, and the recorder ceased operating. In a mitigation, it appeared that Adamair didn't bother to train its crews in IRS failures, and despite a worldwide effort to improve pilot training in jet upsets, they had failed to include that training either. The repercussions of this crash went well beyond the tragedy felt by the bereaved and the airframe lost to the airline. It drew into question the whole ethos behind the control of Indonesia's airlines. As the layers were peeled back, it became obvious that the system was broken. It was revealed that the previous year a similar problem had left one of Adamair's aircraft meandering lost over the ocean for more than 3 hours. When they eventually saw land, they put the aircraft down safely, but still had no idea where they were. The airline claimed the aircraft to be in good working order and had the pilots arrested on charges of endangering passenger safety, but Indonesia's Director General of Air Communications wasn't convinced. He told Adamair to fix the aircraft, and they insisted they fly 13 test flights with inspectors on board. Instead, Adamair stranded the DGAC team when they took off without them, and returned the aircraft to service without any inspection. The Director General of Air Transportation said the incident was a serious violation and promised a full investigation, of which there is absolutely no record. Allegations of corruption abounded, particularly after another Adamair 737 landed with such force at Surabaya that the fuselage broke and the tail section collapsed. Then another skidded off the end of the runway at Batam, causing major damage. The airline was again severely criticized when the crew on board mishandled the emergency evacuation by failing to deploy any slides. One of the airline's co-founders came under very close scrutiny since the businessman was also the Speaker of Indonesia's House of Representatives. Finally, the Indonesian government started to take action by replacing many at the Transportation Ministry, including the Directors of Air and Sea Transport and the Chair of the Committee for Safety. They banned Indonesian airlines from operating aircraft more than 10 years old and introduced a 3-level system of safety ranking, advising 15 airlines in the lowest rank that their licenses would be revoked in 3 months unless they made major changes. No airline was in the top rank, which indicated no serious issues. Somehow, Adam Air moved up a rank and survived, but 5 others were shut down and 5 more grounded. Regardless, the word was out now, and the FAA downgraded Indonesia's air safety category from a 1 to a 2 and warned all US citizens to avoid using Indonesian airlines. Then, in 2007, both the United States and the European Union banned all of Indonesia's airlines from operating into Europe or the USA, a ban that was only completely lifted in 2018. As for Adam Air, it struggled on until June 2008, when the government revoked its air operator certificate and the airline closed down. Prior to its demise, the company's owner, Sandra Ang, was accused of embezzling the company's money of approximately $210 million. She was later arrested. I've talked in previous tales about the dangers of distraction from a pilot's primary duty, that of flying the aircraft. The inquiry came to the same conclusion when they wrote, "The crew became distracted. The dangers of this fact have been highlighted in accidents such as the Eastern Airlines Lockheed L-1011, Miami, Florida, on the 29th of December 1972, that crashed when the crew became preoccupied with a landing gear warning light." Flight 574 was yet another lesson on how important avoiding distraction is.
I'm sorry. Are we back on? I was kind of distracted.
What are we doing?
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Oh, the show.
Oh, yeah, the show. Is that still going? Oh, another
You're having so much fun there.
No, another fantastic plane tale.
Always. I was thinking very much of that Eastern Airlines flight. I'm glad you mentioned it at the end, because that's kind of the quintessential accident.
It is how for them how something so trivial could have distracted everyone on the flight deck. It's so sad that that kind of problem has reared its ugly head so many times since, and this is just another in the long list. But I tell you what, I kind of liked. I mean, albeit in a Schadenfreude kind of way. No one likes it, but this highlighted so many failures within the airline industry in Indonesia. It's not the only country in the world to have problems, don't get me wrong, but this was kind of a classic example. It went from pilot level, two pilots who were quite capable of dealing with this emergency, dealing with it very badly. And then it went up to their training, it went up to their airlines' disregard for flight safety, it went to the maintenance of the aircraft, it went to the oversight, it went to the politicians involved. It was just a quagmire of ineptitude and corruption. An absolutely appalling story, incredibly sad, that resulted in all these deaths. And sometimes, it's not the first time or will probably be the last time. Sometimes it needs a massive accident that kills a lot of people before anyone will actually do something to fix this. So, it is a fault of our industry that sometimes you let it get that far before something's done.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. Very true. Did you mention quagmire? You said there was a quagmire. Oh, it's not coming through. Darn it.
I can hear it.
Yes, I did actually mention that.
Thought you did. Yeah.
Poor old Quagmire. He's a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, he is. A typical airline pilot, I'd say. Sadly.
Absolutely, yes. Typical American airline pilot, yes.
Okay, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, so true.
Is he a cowboy?
He is a cowboy,
Probably.
Liz.
Yeah.
Liz,
Jeff,
it looks like we lost our...
check your clean feed again?
Yeah.
I think we're out of
Well,
commission.
we got it. You want to send another invite to see if you can reconnect?
Sorry.
Try pushing that button there.
I just tried to reconnect, but it didn't reconnect. But
All right. Well, let me send you another invitation.
Okay. Sorry, everybody.
Pardon our stuff going on here.
Can I have an invitation? I always like a good
Sure.
party. Thanks.
Oh yeah. I don't know exactly how. It looks like Steph has an invitation.
I have an invitation. I can't invite you to this, though. I'm sorry.
Oh, is that another topless
girls only?
party?
Topless?
A tapas, like the Spanish.
Oh, tapas. Yeah, tapas. I don't know. Do they do tapas in Mexico also?
Probably.
Good.
Oh, they definitely do topless.
In that case. Excited. I'll let you know how the Mexican tapas are. We don't know either. That's why we're...
But you guys are doing a great job of vamping. Thank you.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
That's not working. Sorry, folks. It's my fault.
That's right. We've only got half an hour to go.
Do you want to connect that to the phone?
I'm not sure it's a... I actually connected to my hotspot.
There she is.
Oh. Hey, Liz. You hear me? Yeah. Sweet. All right.
That's a tall black drink you've got there.
It is. I noticed that you had tall, black drinks there as well.
What you got?
Well, I've got a Guinness. I don't know what.
Well, I know what you have.
Oh,
What is-
Liquid Death.
Liquid Death.
God.
Oh, my God. Now, you should have drunk that. Drink.
That would have
let's
been
do the shimmy
disappointing.
damper. Liz wants to do
with
the
the
shimmy
results
damper
there
again.
too. Yes. I would just say
Yes,
this
we'll have a
is-
great
it's one of my
retake
new
then.
favorite beverages.
What
and
is
you should look it up if you're unfamiliar.
You're not going to
Liquid
tell me I
Death.
have to look it up?
It's an energy drink.
Liquid
thing,
Death.
isn't it?
Liquid
Is
Death.
it an
It's
energy
it is not
drink?
an energy drink.
It's
And
a
it
lack
is-
of energy.
And it is not.
Suck energy.
Yeah, it's where you just die after drinking it. Ugh.
Do you feel like you've just run a marathon after you've had one or two?
No.
No. Oh.
It does not contain alcohol.
Oh.
Oh. Is it just
Well,
water?
what's the point?
It's just water. It's sparkling water. The black can is
Really?
sparkling water. The white can is still water.
I say again, what's the point?
I don't believe.
It is sparkling water. Could they not put some alcohol in it for you?
Well, that's kind of the point, is that it's just water.
I don't think that she's being honest about this. I'm going to have to look at this.
That's fine.
Oh, she is? Oh. Liz is fact checkers.
Liz has fact checked my
Fact-checkers.
beverage.
She has
choice for the
fact checked it, and you are being honest for a change.
I like to
From
drink
the
this at
Austrian
work.
Alps.
I think
And
that's
in the
just
airplane?
the doctor flexing on all of us pores that have to drink water out of the
Regular out of the tap. Hey,
That's why
listen,
it's
all I
called
know
liquid
is that
death.
Amazon will deliver a case of this to my house in 2 hours if I run out. So that's great. Thanks, Amazon.
So
2
is your
hours.
tap water is not.
They
oh,
want to
that's
kill
right,
you
sparkling
that
water.
quickly? Wow.
Yeah, I don't have sparkling water coming out of my tap, unfortunately.
Oh, well, if you did, I would be.
I would be
very-
concerned about the quality of the water in that case. It's probably bubbling for
Why?
not a great reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you have bubbles in your water? Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about it. Just pretend it's fancy. Put it in a glass. Yeah.
Okay. Liz says that we have half an hour left. So I think that she's
Shall we?
trying to tell us that we should move on. Thanks again, Nick. A great plane tale, as always. I mean, no surprise. And let's see, where did we leave off, Liz? Number 6. Okay. Wow, we're going to have a lot of leftover feedback here today. I know Liz is very happy about that. Okay, this is from Texas Anlashock. This and that, he says. Greetings, Captain Jeff and APG crew. This time I have something similar to what airplane geeks would call a bits and pieces feedback, just some random things that are generally unrelated, except for aviation. Someone asked a while back how we first got interested in aviation. Well, the way my parents tell it, they would be driving along and suddenly from my car seat, they'd hear, airplane! And then they'd look around and finally off in the distance, they'd see this tiny little sliver moving through the air. I was surprised to hear Captain Nick mention Bitburg in a recent plane tale. I lived there for around 3 years, though since we're civilians, we lived off base. We got there right after the wall came down, so early 90s, but I can't imagine it would have changed that much from where you were there. No, from when you were there, I guess, probably. I still remember how loud those F-15s were, not just when they flew by, but when they started up. We even got to go on a school field trip to the base and see the squadron ready room and things like that. Yesterday, I was driving through Lubbock and noticed a plane flying around. Not that unusual, but this one was a 737 MAX 10 in Boeing House colors. Curious. I got on Flight Radar 24, checked the area. I found this was November 27751, flying as BOE 101, making circuits around the city, either for training or for testing something. The 101 number makes me think training. And there's the image that Liz is showing there of the circuits around the Lubbock Preston Smith International Airport, Lima Bravo Bravo. He said, recently saw a movie reaction. Yes, this is the thing, believe it or not, of a movie reaction of a couple people watching Independence Day. And when the nuclear attack scene came up, they thought they were seeing a different alien ship. Then they realized those were Air Force B-2s, which do look sort of like something from another world. That's part of the reason people love them so much. On this year's watch of Tora Tora Tora, my sister's friend, who has become kind of an honorary family member, was over with her daughter, who was still learning how to talk. It was funny because whenever there was a plane on, or one could be heard in the background, she'd point at the screen and go, "Epping!" Pretty good acting, huh?
Very good, Jeff. You get a job doing that.
Voiceover work in your future. You could do like cartoons and things.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm a bit confused why we saw an A4 earlier when we were talking about B2s, but not to worry.
Well, I didn't do that. I'm not in charge of those things.
Oh, okay.
Liz, that was Liz's fault. She's apologizing to you. Okay. Finally, I had to go back to liberal for another week, right across town from conservative. And so I took the opportunity to visit their aviation museum again. Thank you. That sounds very heartfelt.
You're getting better at discerning types of laughter.
Yeah, definitely not real. This time I tried taking a few panoramics. There's my random collection of stuff. Hope you all have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Congratulations on reaching 500.
104. Funny looking airplane. Yellow airplane, green airplane, red airplane.
Nick is now telling everybody what we're looking at on the screen.
Lots of airplanes. Oh my God.
Airplane, panoramic.
Airplane, red nose, blue airplane, helicopter airplane, airplane with a goldfish in.
You're so good at this, Nick.
OV-10 airplane, two-tail airplane.
Srivijaya.
Yeah, that's the one too. Come on, more airplane.
Thank you, Texas Amlashock. He's now regretting that he sent any of this in.
Yeah, exactly. Don't blame him.
We kind of get a little, punchy when we get toward the end of the show. And speaking of punchy, we have this feedback from Tim Van Ram. You may have heard of that guy. He said, "Hey, y'all. Sharing Bob Rivers' beat-up old jetliner for your enjoyment." Now, he sent me a YouTube link with this audio, and we've actually, Tim, played this on the show, but it's been quite some time ago that we did, and I'll just play just a little touch of it here. It's kind of a funny satire of big old jet airliner. So let's take a listen.
Goodbye to all my friends I've known and the travel agent I trusted. I'm riding along on this beat up old plane. Look out the window, all the rivets are rusted. As that ground crew pushes us backwards on that rickety L1011.
The Lockheed TriStar.
I'm feeling around for that flotation device. And when the safety film is shown, I'm paying close attention. Beat up old jetliner. Hope you got a tune up today. Oh, beat up old jetliner. Did they sneak you past the FAA?
Let's listen to the whole thing.
Bouncing round in a thundercloud. Landing gear won't come down. My seat back is up and my belt is on. I see the fire crew spraying foam on the ground. And if I get to my final destination, I know the next flight will surely be free. But I don't think I'll go back up into that piece of shit just to save a few pennies.
Oops.
Beat up old jetliner.
Forgot that was in
Won't
there.
carry me too far today. Oh, give me a fresh airliner. I don't care what I've got to pay. Yeah, 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 yeah. Beat up old
The
jetliner.
Lockheed TriStar.
Don't carry me too far today. Oh, beat up old jetliner. 'Cause it's home that I'd rather stay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. I just turned off the no smoking sign. I figure, hell, if the plane's smoking, why shouldn't you?
Hey.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was
Liz,
good.
that's-
That last bit was
That's-
brilliant.
That's unfair of you. She showed the airplane Reaper, which is a picture of me as the Grim Reaper.
The
Yeah.
Lockheed TriStar.
I used to fly that airplane,
Mm-hmm.
and I take great offense to that song. Actually, it's pretty accurate.
Great.
Tim.
That used to be regular part of your show.
What?
Isn't that music? Wasn't that
Oh,
something
big
you
old
used to
jet
play
airliner?
regular?
On
Yeah, Rick's.
yeah,
Yeah.
Rick's intro music, and then oh no, it was a different song that you use for your the thing that you do every once in a while that I haven't done in so long that I've forgotten what they're called.
The crew.
This is my regular crew here, and they don't.
Let me
any
put it
idea.
this way: that's not the first time I've heard it. I'm sure.
Crew logs. Yeah.
That's Miami Rick's intro.
Ah, there you
Yeah.
go.
Oh wait. Oh yeah. Good idea. Liz says maybe if we play it, he'll show up. Come on the show. I don't know.
So go ahead and play it again. Is he gonna
Okay.
show up?
Come on, Rick. Well, he might show up. Let's see. I think we have a remote camera.
I think
Liz.
so.
Okay. Let's see if we can.
Yeah, there he is.
Hey, Rick. Hey, Rick.
Rick, you're late, mate. Stop it.
How many darn
OCD?
shirts have you on?
You know, he hasn't got rid of that crease yet. He'll be there as soon as he's got rid of the crease.
What? No, we can't hear you. Rick. Rick, your
Still hasn't
microphone's
figured
not
out
on.
his microphone.
No. Man. Yeah, he.
The Lockheed TriStar.
Okay. That's enough. All right. Well, we tried, folks. We really did. Okay. Let's jump to this next. Thank you, Tim, for sending that in. And Yeah, let's jump to the next one. Oh, I see what you did there, Liz. This is from Andy Harris, and he said, jumping emergencies. Hi, crew. First of all, thank you so incredibly much for the amazing time in Atlanta. I'll always remember the day meeting Captain Jeff and others. He had to mention the others, but it's mostly just Captain Jeff.
Just generic
Captain
others. That's fine. We're definitely just others.
I don't know Captain Others either.
Did you meet Andy, Steph?
I think so.
Apparently you didn't make a big impression.
Pretty sure I met Andy. Pretty sure I met Andy. I will just say I am terrible with names, and Liz did send me name tags to have there, but they arrived like 2 days after the event. So
yeah.
Oh no.
The postal system and delivery system failed.
Stash of things. Yeah. Yes. Anyway.
Okay. Anyway, I'm listening to 502, and Dr. Steph. He remembers you. Mentions emergencies in the jumper-dumper plane. That made me wonder. Dr. Steph, would you ever tell your jumpers just to jump in the event of an onboard emergency? What a unique option to have, the more I think about it.
Yeah, it's a good question, Andy. And there are situations where that would be a preferable thing to have them do. It's an interesting topic of conversation that comes up generally every year when we do our safety day with staff and jumpers, because there's a lot of considerations that go into this. Depends on the type of emergency and depends on the altitude you're at when the emergency occurs. And it depends on where you are when the emergency occurs. If it's a low level emergency, most of the jumpers are not going to be comfortable exiting at a low altitude, even if they were to consider going straight to their reserve parachute, which will open quite a bit quicker, because that's just a different emergency procedure. And unless you've really thought it through and have great confidence, that's probably not a good idea. Also, at lower altitudes, we're very unlikely to be directly over the airport at that point. So they'll be landing certainly off field. And you have to take a look and consider what is in the area. Is it a big, forest of trees, or is it kind of gentle, forgiving cow pastures? If it's something very catastrophic, even if it's a lower altitude, that might be a preferable option to have people get out. What we stress and teach our jumpers is that if there is an emergency with the aircraft, they are to sit down, which they should be sitting anyway, but be very quiet. They need to take directions from the pilot or pilots, and information needs to be passed in an orderly fashion from the front of the aircraft to the back of the aircraft, because it can be quite loud. And if people start yelling and screaming and making their own decisions, it gets very chaotic in a hurry. A good instance of where that might, and I'm thinking of, not things that have happened to me, but things that I've heard may have happened to other pilots, where perhaps there was an error in fuel calculation, and at a very high altitude. But high altitude, relatively close to the drop zone, not a bad decision to have everyone get out of the aircraft, so that you can manage that fuel emergency. So there's a lot of different things that can certainly happen in a lot of different scenarios, and it's good to periodically think about all of the different things that might happen or might be an emergency. There can be gear emergencies, there can be gear entanglements with aircraft, there can be, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and it just depends on that particular instance, that particular situation, as to what you're going to ask your jumpers to do. But primarily, they need to remain as calm as they can and let the pilots work the emergency and take direction from the pilots.
So what I got from that is you really don't care about the jumpers, and it's more important that the pilots get on the ground safely.
Yes.
Is that
no,
was that the
not at all.
takeaway?
Not at all.
Yeah.
No, our takeaway 100%. 100% is that everybody gets to the ground safely. And,
I'm just kidding.
And it is a unique option.
I missed that.
It's not an option that if you're just a passenger on an aircraft in a normal setting, that you would have that opportunity to potentially leave and have a safe exit and safe landing.
Funny, I had it in my mind that jumpers would generally be better than the average passenger and wouldn't be screaming and making a lot of noise.
Well, so there
Am
are
I
some,
wrong?
Maybe.
I knowing about a lot, again, things that generally have not happened to me, but instances and situations that I know about that have happened. it doesn't matter. People are people in emergency situations. These are, and a lot of times they're not necessarily aircraft specific. Sometimes it can be things happening within the airplane. It can be gear issues. It can be other things that could become problematic quickly. And yeah, you don't want everyone making individual decisions. A lot of times you want people to have a cohesive plan.
Good. Sounds good to me.
So
Will you shut up in the back?
Oh,
in the very limited amount of
keep your feet off the furniture. Sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
I was
He's
going to
say something very serious, I think.
Yes.
In the
I think he has a
very
good
limited
question.
in the very limited amount of jumper dumper experience that I have, I think it's safe to say we like the jumpers that I fly are a very different clientele than the jumpers that Steph flies. But generally, when we get on the airplane with the reenactor guys who are jumping out of the airplane on static lines, in
that's a different situation entirely. Yeah, they're going to get out.
Give us a
"See
bell
ya."
at 500 feet, and as soon as we hear that bell, if
We're out.
anything happens, we are going out of the airplane.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's a little so that's something that we do talk to. Especially newer jumpers about, but also jumpers who maybe have been doing this for a long time, but don't think about emergencies on a regular basis. We want people to think through, not in great detail about what the actual emergency is, but if there's an emergency and your pilot asks you to consider getting out of the aircraft at 2,500 feet, AGL, is that something that you're comfortable doing with the gear that you have? And there's going to be some jumpers who are not comfortable with that, and they're not going to want to do that unless they absolutely have to. There's other jumpers who have been doing it for a very long time. They're very comfortable with their gear. They know exactly what they're going to do in that situation. And as soon as if they think there's actually a serious emergency, they might just go on their own.
Yeah. And I think it's also important. You mentioned like letting the pilots work the issue, right? Like,
because not everything that's perceived to be a huge issue by someone in the back might be something that's, that catastrophic that we couldn't be able to solve or resolve safely.
or vice versa, right? Like it could be an issue that is imminently workable until you have 3,000 pounds of payload go out the airplane and then make the airplane handle completely differently. And you're only a few hundred feet off the ground. So yeah, it's definitely important to have good communication there.
Well, Neil says, are jumpers grouped by experience, or could you have a tandem first-timer with experienced people?
We typically have a very big mix of jumpers on the aircraft. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes it's a flight of all tandem instructors and jumpers. Sometimes it's all one big experienced group or several experienced groups. But more often than not, I'd say it's a handful of tandem students with their instructors, a couple of their videographers, and then sport jumpers and of varying degrees of experience. So some who have thousands and thousands and thousands of jumps, and some who have like 30.
Well, it was a good question and great answer. Thank you, Steph.
Yeah.
Andy Harris continues, Captain Jeff, while at Atlanta, I spent a lot of time watching the airport operations. It has to be a challenge trying to get in and out of the ramp areas. A few times I heard pilots complaining about baggage carts cutting them off or being in the way on live ATC. Does this happen often? Is this fairly
all the time?
Yeah. Because of how the ramps are set up? Do you ever have to complain to ramp control about dangerous ground vehicles?
All the time.
Yeah, well, you know what? It happens so much I don't even bother anymore. We just have to be very vigilant when we're approaching ramp areas, and it's like we're the first officer is looking over on his side. Okay, the roadway's clear. The roadway's still clear. I'm looking over my side. Yeah, the left is clear. Left is clear. It's just we know where the major roadways are for the ramp and other ground support vehicles, and we just are like our heads are on a swivel going into the ramp area. And I found that I don't think it makes any difference to complain about the ramp vehicle or not. I've never heard any feedback about it, but yeah, you have to be very, very aware of what's happening, and you don't want to be that guy that hits one of these tugs or other vehicles, because it happens, and usually with not favorable results for the person driving said ramp vehicle. So, yeah, that's my answer. All right. So Andy closes with take care, and I hope to see everyone at Oshkosh. I'd like to do that, Andy. Hopefully I will see you there in a few months, right? Well, several months.
7 months, yeah.
Yeah.
A few.
Okay.
Depending on how you count.
Okay, thanks, Liz. Yeah, I'd like to do one piece of audio feedback from Paul. You'll remember Paul, Captain Nick. He was with us in Dayton a couple of years ago.
Absolutely.
When we went there to visit the U.S. Air Force Museum.
We shared an Airbnb, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Absolutely.
And Paul sent us some. And before I, well, no, I'll just play it right now. Let's see. Here we go. Paul used SpeakPipe to send us in some audio feedback, and you can too. It's on the website. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Hi, APG crew. This is Paul from between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. How's everybody doing? Hope you have some good holidays and good memories. It's the funniest thing. I was just going over my 401k, and the way I basically do it is I assign numbers to the different percentages related to the number of years. Well, what's this got to do with aviation? Well, other than money, to make, airplanes fly with money. It's not jet fuel. But anyways, I was going over and I found myself doing something really weird. I'm going over my numbers, multiplying 2s and 10s and 5s and 10s and 4s and 3s and 5s and stuff like that. Well, I found myself going over these numbers like, 50, 40, 30, 10, retard. You know what I mean? Well, that's that. I got that APG itis disease too. All right, have a good one. Over and out.
Thanks, Paul. And I don't think
very good.
I don't think it's APG-itis. I think
No, the official name is a little different.
Wait, why is this not playing? Oh,
I don't know.
Fix it in post. Look at that. I hit the button. I really did. I hit the button. Okay, let me go over here. Alternate. My backup method. Yeah, that's what the show is. Alternate reality. And let's see, where is it? Help me find this. Thank you. Nick found it more quickly than I did. APG syndrome. It's APG syndrome.
That's it.
Yeah, not APG-itis. Come on, Paul. APG syndrome. All right. Thank you for the feedback, Paul. And yeah, I think that a lot of us suffer from it, and it kind of bleeds into our regular life, sadly. Sorry. That's an apology, an official apology from the Airline Pilot Guy Show. And before I continue, just wanted to mention, I thanked a bunch of people for all the help that I received when I was in Atlanta for the APG 500 celebration episode, and Paul hung around on that Saturday the next day and helped me with a lot of cleanup and packing up and taking stuff to my car and that kind of thing, and I really do appreciate it, Paul, and I'm sorry that I didn't remember to thank you, and I knew that I would forget someone, and I was right. I did. So thanks, Paul, for sending in the feedback, and let's skip over to number 9. All right, this is from Bruce. Greetings, Captain Jeff, Captain Nick, Dr. Steph, Miami Rick, and producer Liz. I thought you and your listeners might enjoy this feedback that also contains a brain teaser. Uh-oh. That's not a good thing. Yeah.
Not doing it. Sorry, Bruce.
Question.
Okay, fine.
We're gonna move forward. We're gonna push through it, Steph. If you were on approach to an airport and ATC asked you to do a twirl, would you know what to do? It says, pause here to discuss and answer. Immediately when I first read this, I thought a twirl. I think maybe they mean like do a circle, like
360 maybe.
A 360, an orbit.
No, it's a British chocolate bar, a twirl. So you'd obviously
Give us a real
you'd
answer there
reach
first.
back to the rations and you'd eat a twirl. I don't know quite why they'd want you to do that, but
Well, I think it's also a sexual maneuver.
it could be. But I've no idea what
I'm
you
not even
get up
going
to.
there. I'm not even going there.
Liz is
Or you
saying
might
something
get
to
out of
do
your
with-
seat, put your kilt on like Rick does, and spin around on the flight
Do a
deck.
twirl.
Yeah. Okay. Or Liz mentions it could have something to do with like a drum major or like
like twirling a baton or a
thing.
drumstick.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot of headroom to throw your drumsticks in the air, though, are there?
Yeah. Well, anyway,
Not a lot
he
of room
continues.
to twirl either in your kilt. But
Yeah, this is not or twerk for that matter.
That's more Rick's thing.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking of Rick when I am in a weird headspace. Thank you, Liz. That's normal for me. Okay.
Excellent. Does
Bruce
he
continued-
twerk when he's ironing? I want to know that.
We don't.
he
we
saves
can't
that for
show
the
that.
extreme ironing competition. It's a patented move.
Yeah, we don't want to give away his secrets.
He gets extra points for twerking. Yes, very good.
That's how he's going to win it all this year. I'm sure.
Shh, secret weapon.
And that's really why he couldn't join us, because he's really, he's
practicing.
really
Training hard.
practicing hard on this twerking maneuver. Okay. My niece, Christina, not mine, but Bruce's niece, Christina, has just completed her first flight as a newly appointed captain flying the Metro Liner 3. Yay. For
Oh,
a small
she looks
northern...
pleased with herself. Quite right, too.
Excuse me. No, they're all five pops are still on that thing.
Well, interesting. You're looking. So I'm looking at this one, and is this what you were talking about, Nick? The reinforced plate there, just below the window.
Yeah.
So with the way that this, Mm-hmm.
Mind you,
And that's
those
the same-
props are huge, aren't they? I mean, they look bigger than the fuselage.
They're pretty big props.
Those are large props. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you for noticing. Liz says you got to give it props. Well, that's worse than my jokes, Liz. Okay. Anyway, so Christina is a new captain on the Metroliner 3 for a small Northern Ontario commuter airline, perhaps known as Acme Far North. She was pilot flying and hoping for an uneventful flight. She and her FO were on approach to Sault
Ste. Marie.
Sault Ste.
Sault Ste. Marie.
I don't know why I have trouble with that. Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Charlie Yankee Alpha Mike, when ATC asked them to slow for traffic ahead. They powered back and then deployed flaps, but were unable to slow enough, so ATC indicated, "This won't work. Can you do a twirl?" She and the FO looked at each other and asked for a clarification. ATC advised them to do a left turn, circle around, and rejoin the approach to land. Neither of the pilots had ever heard of a twirl before. Maybe it's a Canadian ATC expression. I don't think so. Probably not in the official ATC
May have to
communications.
kick that one over to AG and RH.
Yeah, AG and
Yeah,
RH. That's a question for them.
Mm-hmm.
Ask them,
I think
"Hey,
it's
have you ever
called
done
an
a twirl?"
orbit.
An orbit or actually, I've heard
Orbit's
it say
not very common.
A 360
here,
is usually
360.
what I hear.
Yeah, 360 is more common here. Orbit is less common.
Yeah.
Here.
But we're cowboys, so what are you going to do? Actually, they say,
Well, yeah.
how about doing a lasso? Yeehaw! All right.
There you go.
And then Liz showed a picture of his niece beside her aircraft for her first flight. There it is again. Very nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it's really good. Well done.
Yes.
Congratulations, Christina. Okay. And is that it, Liz? Hopefully? Yeah, we were hoping to do some more, and we're going to have to move that to the next show. We got some great video from Gubby, speaking of Canadians, on his...
He's
one of
British,
his
isn't he? He just happens to
missions.
work in Canada.
Oh, that's right. Well, okay, you're right. He is. He flies for the Canadian Air Force. a C-17. He has sent us some good
Yeah,
video
the
regarding that.
Brits wouldn't employ him anymore.
Well, we don't want to talk about that on the show, Nick. That was something we agreed to, I thought.
Okay.
Sorry, Justin
Gabby.
Beaverhausen sent us some funny feedback, and so much more. We have more feedback from Mike and Spencer and Tim and Tom, and hey, you too. Maybe you can send us some feedback, and we'll
Me too.
play it on one of our upcoming shows. Except not you, Nick. No.
You do feedback every week. It's called Plain
Yeah.
Tales.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
So we don't want to hear more from you. So Nick C next to me is hearing everything that Liz is saying. See what I have to listen to the whole time? It's pretty funny, actually. So anyway, it's time now. Okay, we'll wrap it up with something funny. 17. This is from the Geezer in Tulsa, Larry. And he says, is Captain Nick barnstorming again? And there we go. It's a Gary Larson cartoon, which we just all love Gary Larson. It says, "Fool, give me those controls. You're just dang lucky both barn doors were open." And of course, it's the front end of a airplane fuselage, and a cow is draped on top of the fuselage. And so
yeah, that's just like me barnstorming. Gonna say, you just dang lucky. Yeah, that's something I would
dang
definitely
lucky you're
say.
still alive.
You wouldn't use the phrase dang
lucky. Yeah,
darn
dang
lucky. Darn lucky for sure. You're just darn lucky.
You just
darn
barn
lucky.
doors are open.
Darn lucky, lucky.
You know what?
Ooh.
We think we're just gonna make you an honorable cowboy.
I've got me own
You're one of
hat.
us now.
I just need a 6-shooter.
Yes, you do. All right. Oh, Nick with a gun. That's a scary thought. Anyway, it's time now for us to wrap up the show and
Thank God for
tell
that.
you. Thank goodness, yes. We're going to talk about the website because it says there right on the video right there, airlinepilotguy.com. Which is where you can find out more. I don't know why you would want to, but if you want to find out more about the crew, our biographies are there, as well as information about our wonderful community, which is really the best part of all of this. And we have merchandise, and we have information about the coffee fund, and we have an expanded information page regarding all the plane tales that Captain Nick does every week. Excuse me, the old pilot does every week. And what else? Oh, if you're into them books and stuff to read, we have do some book learning. We have the APG library, and Tiffany is in charge of all that. Thank you, Tiffany, and so much more. So check out the airlinepilotguy.com website. We're also on social media, what I like to call the Sochmades staff.
We are on the social medias, but I just want to point out before that that if anything we've said has been offensive to you in the past several minutes or a couple hours, we can also be reached at I'mOffended@airlinepilotguy.com. But, feel free to reach out on the social medias as well. We're at Twitter. We are at APG Crew on your Twitter app or just regular web browser, I suppose. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy, and also Instagram. We are APG Crew there. If you really, really, really want to get to know some of the diehards and the folks who join us every single week and, do all the meetups and other fun stuff, you should consider Slack, and I will let Hillel tell you about that.
Yeah, if you're a slacker, this is for you. So let's see if... Okay, I think I hear the water running. Okay, hang on. Hillel, can you do Slack?
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
That's okay, as always. Just come over here. Nick, you're going to have to move out of the way. He's going to come over here, and sometimes he doesn't do a good job of keeping all the water up, and it gets all over the place. Okay, all right.
You think that's water?
Oh, I hope so. Hillel, tell us about Slack, please.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas, we suggest episode and Plain Tales topics, we plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com. Or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Well, thanks a lot, Hillel. We do appreciate it. And if you want to...
I got shampoo in my eyes.
Sounds painful. I'm not sure.
Good job, Nick's there.
Hang on, we'll be right with you. We're kind of wrapping up the show. Okay. Yeah, as long as you're wrapped up. Yeah, thanks, Liz. Okay, and speaking of Liz, Piper, they're in Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Yay!
Thank you very much
Liz.
for all the hard work.
Good job.
Trying to keep us straight. Not always successful.
Straight and level.
We do appreciate your all the stuff that you do for us. And finally, thank you, Nick, for
Nick was a
too,
great guest.
Absolute.
Great guest.
Good job,
yeah.
Nick.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
back.
We'll hit this. There's an applause
There we
for
go.
Nick Camacho. All right. And finally, yes.
I want some
thank
applause.
goodness. Yeah, oh, okay. And Nick Anderson.
Hey!
Nick Anderson. That was awesome. And oh, wait a minute. Let's not forget Steph. We have to.
I know it wasn't necessary. It's fine. Thank you.
Hey, how about Steph's Roomba? Yay, Steph's Roomba!
Hey, Roomba! Steph's Roomba!
All right. Very
Good
nice.
job.
Wow. So many people to thank in so little time.
All right.
Okay.
And Taco has been here this whole time. Do you see that?
Oh,
Taco.
He's very confused by the clapping right now. His tennis ball is just out of shot. He dropped it at my feet earlier, and he's clearly given up. He's like, I'm never going to have this ball thrown for me again in my life.
Oh, that's so sad.
Poor little guy.
Okay,
Chat
I'm sure
room.
you can... Oh, and the
Hooray for the chat room! Hooray! Good job. Good job.
So you know we're not going to do this every time, okay?
I don't know what's gotten into us that we're so
And
appreciative.
finally, we're going to end this show. Yay!
Marvelous. Thank God for that.
Wishing you all clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
All the best.
Oh, gosh.
Thanks, everybody.
Ray, Nick, remember to say goodbye. Ray.
And in the audio only, I'll take out that little gap of
pause.
Yeah, it's that pause.
The
No,
unexplained.
I don't. I think it's great.
It's like, why is everybody looking at me? Oh, I have to say goodbye to.
For some reason, I just have to put up this overlay. I just love this shot. We haven't seen it for a while.
That's me on my walk around.
Fancy Jeff.
Yep.
We like fancy.
You were
Jeff.
talking about your FO now who's so diligent. How could you
Yeah.
not be diligent?
I think that's a good segue for your research into Nick's drink.
Oh,
Yes.
That's very good, yes.
Well, actually, it was not my
Liz-
research. It
Liz
was
did the research,
Liz's
I think.
research. And she found an interesting name for the drink that Nick is enjoying.
Oh, what's the name?
You're not aware of the name of this drink, Nick?
Well, the Scottish people who served it to me called it Guinness with.
No, that's not
What
it.
is? Apparently
Well,
not.
it has a name. It has one
I
name
sent
that we
it to
can't
you
mention.
Too, I sent it to you too, Nick. You got a text.
Oh, okay.
from
Let
it
me
too,
give a
so-
quick look.
Okay, here we go. I'm gonna just
Land shark.
we're not gonna read it. Okay, just a warning, everybody. Don't read it.
no.
We're just going
Do
to
your own
share
research
It. Yeah, here we go.
How did you send it to me?
by text.
Don't worry, just look at the screen right now.
Purple? Okay. All right. Very nice. That didn't come on. Oh.
I didn't make it up. I just did a Google search. Sorry.
That's a dangerous
All right,
thing.
okay.
I know.
Oh, you sent it. You sent it from your personal thing. Oh, right. Okay. I was expecting it to go to APG crew.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. I was sending it to you individually because I didn't want to distract too much.
Oh, right.
Well, that never
I love
stopped
it.
you from distracting me.
Well, I'm still getting that your notifications are turned off for me. So
Well, I turned them back
They're
on.
turned off for everybody.
Well,
So it's not just you, Liz.
getting the message here.
oh, really? Have I turned off everybody's?
Your notification, yeah.
How did that happen? I don't remember doing this.
Do you have your phone on like Do Not Disturb?
Jeff
Or?
has notifications.
I did, but
silenced.
it's not anymore.
Well, it is now.
No, what?
Jeff N has notifications silenced.
Exactly.
Oh.
Does it have to do with this thing? Because aren't you getting notifications on?
Oh yeah,
messages
it
on
might
here
have
as
something
well?
to do because I do. Oh, look at that! I'm on Do Not Disturb on my Mac Mini.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So now, Do Not Disturb is off.
Ding, 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 ding.
Sorry.
No.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah.
It was
Yep. I
delivered-
got. I see this says testing on here.
Yeah, but I had to say over. I had to override the thing.
We'll try it again.
Oh
Blushes
yeah, that one,
in
that one
pilot.
went
That's
through.
hilarious.
That one went.
Okay, fixed it. Sorry, people. I wasn't purposely, shutting you off.
Well, you weren't. You were responding, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Through. Okay, so let's let Nick go to bed.
Yeah, I got to get dinner too. I'm
finishing my drink.
Well, let's
Okay,
end the
well.
broadcast and have a little chat, and then you can
Okay.
All right.
Nick
I
already
need to
knows what
nag
he's
you.
gonna
I
be
need
doing for the
I need lots of headshots.
Okay. What about all those
Yes.
headshots we've done in the past?
Yeah,
I
can't you just
could use
recycle one of those?
Those
I
passive
could,
aggressive
but
The
I
passive
don't
aggressive
want.
ones
I
were
want.
good.
I want new inspiration. I want floating headshots.
God, he is a really demanding artiste, isn't he?
He is very.
He is.
Absolutely.
demanding.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
Main
don't
Man
forget,
Michael.
I need one
You've
from
had
Nick,
notifications
especially.
off for some time now.
I need one from Nick because I
Someday,
don't have any of
many years
his in
from
the
now,
past.
Nick is
Although
gonna
to be
pass away
truthful,
and you're
I
gonna
could.
find this giant vault of weird headshots of all of
What was wrong with this
what
guy?
was this guy doing?
To be truthful, I could probably pinch one from the many shots I took of Nick peering over his C-47.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
True.
But I'd rather have a humorous one because you look way serious there.
All right, I'll have to think about that. I'm more of a serious person than a humorous person, so I'll stretch my bounds for that one.
Yeah. Don't leave it more than 12 hours. I need them for tomorrow. Please, when I wake up.
Okay.
When you wake
Yep.
up.
Yeah, well, that's what I do in the morning. With a hangover and nothing else to do, I did the show title work.
Yes.
Well,
The joys of being
Can't work.
retired.
Yeah.
Hey, for those of
Right.
us who aren't retired, we need to eat dinner and
Yeah.
get a
Okay.
full
So let's
night's
end the
rest.
broadcast quickly and have our post-show meeting, and then we'll
Bye,
move
everybody.
on with our lives. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.